Chapter 947. The host is also the least charming host that the system has ever encountered. Even though the other hosts needed to borrow the power of the system to climb higher and gain the favor of more people, they would still have one or two shining points. They could also attract some people by themselves. Unlike Wen Jingping, who could be said to be a good person but was not a good person at the same time. She could be said to be a bad person but did not have the guts to do so. She was not evil enough. She had ambition but did not have the brains to match her ambition. If it were not for the fact that the female lead of the world could not be changed and that it had to be tied to the female lead of the world to survive, the system would have quit long ago. One person and one system despised each other. Instead of saying that they were working together, it was more like they had no choice but to bind each other. Facts proved that although Wen Jingping's system was not human, it understood people's hearts very well. After Ding Juesi received a call from his wife and returned home, he had a big argument with her. In a fit of anger, he proposed a divorce. Unexpectedly, his wife, who was originally hysterical and wanted to tear Ding Juesi and his mistress apart, calmed down when she heard that he wanted a divorce. Looking at her husband who had been with her for more than 10 years, she felt that it was the first time she saw his true colors. She sneered and said, "You want a divorce? Okay, then we'll get a divorce. You'll leave with nothing. The 2 children will be mine." Ding Juesi did not expect his wife to agree so readily. However, he was the one who proposed the divorce first. Even if his wife agreed, he could not back down even if he was unwilling. He could not put down his dignity as a man and go back on his word at this time. But soon he was angered by the meaning of his wife's words. Leave with nothing? Why should I leave with nothing? We've been married for so many years. I've been working hard outside to earn money to support the family. The money I brought back was basically handed over to you. Do you think there are any other men who can do that? What's there to be dissatisfied with? Now that you want a divorce, you want me to leave with nothing? I think you're simply trying to force me to death. What? Because you betrayed me, betrayed our family, and had an ambiguous relationship with an outside woman. How many times have I explained it to you? I have nothing to do with her. It's just that we're juniors in the same production team. If she has anything she doesn't understand, she can ask me. I can't take advantage of my seniority and ignore her, right? You have nothing to do with the juniors in the same production team? Do you really think that I don't know anything about what happened outside and let you spout nonsense? With every sentence, Mrs. Ding took a step forward. She said aggressively but clearly, "It doesn't matter. Would you be so kind as to save the beauty in the middle of the night? You personally brought her to the hospital for a checkup and carefully booked a hotel for her to stay." Ding Juesi's expression changed slightly as he looked at his wife in surprise. When he was photographed that day, the media only reported that he was the hero who saved the damsel in distress. They did not mention anything about the follow-up arrangements. How did his wife know? Ding Juesi suddenly had an ominous premonition in his heart. However, it was already too late when he realized that something was wrong. Seeing that his wife was getting more and more excited, Ding Juesi subconsciously retorted, "I was just acting bravely for a just cause. I pitied her." Chapter 948. After being married for so many years, you've been working hard outside to earn money to support the family? You make it sound like I don't have any money on hand and need you to support me. Ding Juesi, have you forgotten who you relied on to get to where you are today? If it weren't for my dad and my brother who used their own connections to help you get a bunch of high-end resources for my sake, do you really think that you can get to where you are now with your talent and ability? Do you really think that you can get so many jobs that you feel hard work with just your talent? You would have been trampled under the feet of the artistes in the same period and starved to death. Although Mrs. Ding became a housewife after marrying Ding Juesi, she stayed at home to take care of her husband and children. However, she was a rich young lady who had been pampered by her family since she was young. Not to mention the company shares that her parents had transferred to her when she got married, the annual dividends alone were enough to match the contract money that Ding Juesi had worked hard to earn for more than half a year. Even if she occasionally bought a few stocks in her free time, the money she earned was more than what Ding Juesi earned from taking on a job. She didn't need to spend any of Ding Juesi's money at all. On the other hand, after marrying her, Ding Juesi used his wife's family's connections to pull in a lot of investments and high-end endorsements for himself. If one really counted, it was basically Ding Juesi's gain. And now, this beneficiary was actually making a false accusation and crying about his difficulties? As for taking back the money you earned and handing it over to me for safekeeping, did I beg you to do it? It was clearly you who said sweet words back then that you took so much advantage of my family and married such a treasure like me. You felt bad and begged me to help you take care of it. Now, you actually have the face to brag about your contributions to this family and make it seem like I'm bullying you? Do you really think that you're a peerless good man just because you've established a peerless good man outside? You're so touched that you don't even know if you're worthy. You. It was the first time Ding Juesi had heard such sharp words from his usually demure and dignified wife. His face was livid. Do you have to say such harsh words? If you think those words are harsh, then don't do such shameful things and talk so much disgusting nonsense. What? Wasn't what I said just now the truth? Ding Juesi choked because what his wife said was indeed the truth, and sometimes the truth was so hurtful. Mrs. Ding saw the resentment and even hatred in Ding Juesi's eyes and suddenly felt like laughing. When she was in love, she always felt that this person was good in every way. He was gentle and elegant, generous in his speech, kind to others, and knew how to dote on others. Now that she knew that he was not what he appeared to be, she realized that his so-called gentleness was nothing more than vanity and his so-called elegance was nothing more than cowardice. The so-called doting could be doting on you, but it could also be doting on others. It was a very universal love. Since you feel that it's hard for you to do so much outside work, fine. From today onwards, I'll inform my subordinates that they don't need to trouble themselves to help you pull in resources. In any case, I'm going to divorce you. From now on, we'll part ways and never see each other again. Even if I have nothing to do with you, my family is the same. My father and brother won't give you any more help. You're on your own now. Madame Ding's words were like knives that stabbed into Ding Juesi's heart. Ding Juesi realized that this matter had started to exceed his expectations. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he realized that his wife had already started to pack her luggage. Ding Juesi was shocked. What are you doing? Chapter 949. If I move away and live under the same roof as you, I'll have goosebumps all over my body. I'll take the 2 children away. This house was written in our names before. After that, I'll get someone to sell it. We'll split it in half. It can be considered as fulfilling the last bit of our relationship as husband and wife. Mrs. Ding had thought about it from the beginning. When they got married, they would split the money in half. At that time, Ding Juesi's career was not as prosperous as it was now, and he had limited money on hand. He could not afford this entire house at all. It was not that Mrs. Ding had not thought of buying this house in full. She was just worried that this would hurt Ding Juesi's self-esteem, so she settled for the next best thing. The 2 of them would split the money in half and buy each other's wedding house. Because of the disparity in their family backgrounds, Mrs. Ding had been very careful and worked hard to manage their marriage all these years. In the end, her years of affection were only exchanged for such a cold return. Mrs. Ding's heart was extremely cold. When the sweetness of the past had all turned into knives that cut flesh, the best way was to cut off the threads of love and stop the loss in time. However, she did not give in at this time because she wanted to help this scumbag in front of her and his women outside. Apart from leaving the house with nothing, Madame Ding felt indescribably disgusted at the thought that Ding Juesi might bring those women into this house after she left with her child. It was better to sell the house directly. From the family to the assets, they would be divided cleanly. They would give it to anyone but these dogs. Of course, the premise is that you cooperate. I'll get someone to send you the divorce agreement after that. Think about what I said just now. After you think about it, sign it. If you don't sign it, we'll meet in court. My lawyer will be waiting for you at any time. Mrs. Ding was nimble and did not lack money. She did not bring any worthless things with her and was prepared to get someone to clean them up after that. In just a few minutes, Mrs. Ding carried a small bag and was about to leave with the 2 children and the nanny. Ding Juesi stood at the side as if he had not recovered from his wife's neat and tidy handling. It was not until he saw the 2 children that he seemed to have finally found his voice. He asked hoarsely, "Do you really have to be so ruthless?" Mrs. Ding was so angry that she laughed. "You're the one who forced me to be ruthless. Don't you think about the children's feelings? If you move out now, what will people say about me? I am their father. If others laugh at me, they will naturally laugh at them. Do you have the heart to let them lose their father at such a young age and be looked down upon by the people around them at such a young age?" When couples quarreled, divorced, and wanted to reconcile, they loved to bring up their children. Generally speaking, children were a woman's weakness. As long as she used this trump card, she would be in an invincible position. However, Ding Juesi's plan was destined to fail. Hearing his words, Mrs. Ding did not change her mind. Instead, she became even more determined. "So you also know that others will laugh at your child when they laugh at you. Why didn't you think about me and our child when you did those dirty things? Now you want to kidnap me with a child? Do you think you're worthy? The marriage must be divorced. I don't want my child to live with a hypocritical, filthy, and disloyal man. You know what you did is wrong, but you don't have to be punished. When you grow up, you will learn from you and harm other little girls. Chapter 950. Ding Juesi was completely humiliated by his wife. While he was angry, he still tried to defend himself. You're going overboard. How many times have I told you that there's really nothing between her and I? September 2nd the year before last, October 9th last year, and half a year ago at XX Hotel? Ding Juesi's expression became uglier and uglier when he heard his wife spew out a bunch of seemingly irrelevant words like a machine gun. He looked at his wife with an uneasy and fearful gaze. Mrs. Ding saw the change in his expression, and the ridicule on her face became even more intense. You're not unfamiliar with what I'm saying, right? This is only in the past few years. I don't even dare to think about how many people you've looked for before. Fortunately, I have a physical examination every month. Otherwise, I'm worried that I'll accidentally contract some disgusting disease. Ding Juesi's face turned green and white. He was speechless for a long time. Mrs. Ding asked the nanny to take the children away first. Then she sneered. Do you really think that I don't know anything and am not prepared to tell you this? If you obediently sign the divorce agreement and leave the marriage with nothing, we'll part on good terms. For the past 10 years, I'll treat it as if I was bitten by a dog and used it to give birth to 2 children. If you want to make a scene, I happen to be angry too. Let's shed all pretense of cordiality and see who will lose their reputation. Mrs. Ding straightforwardly threw out a bunch of warnings and turned to leave. She completely ignored how ugly Ding Juesi's expression was behind her. Ding Juesi's image of a loving wife and a good man that he had maintained for so many years collapsed overnight. Many people saw him as a joke. Those reporters were like wild dogs that smelled meat. They stuck to Ding Juesi at any moment, wishing that they could bite off a piece of meat from him. Mrs. Ding had just brought the 2 children back to her parents' house when this matter was exposed. It indirectly confirmed the fact that Ding Juesi had an affair. Xia Junxing had specially hired people to keep an eye on Ding Juesi and Wen Jingping. Therefore, they had received the news before anyone else and knew more details than anyone else. Su Yiyan was surprised and impressed when he found out that Mrs. Ding had proposed a divorce with Ding Juesi very neatly. She even took out the evidence of Ding Juesi's infidelity and asked him to leave the marriage with nothing. Otherwise, his reputation would be ruined. She felt that this Madame Ding was truly a heroine. She should treat this kind of scumbag as ruthlessly as the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves and not give them any chance. After Su Yiyan remembered the description of Ding Juesi in the original novel, he vaguely felt that this person was not as upright as he appeared to be. While he asked Xia Junxing to send someone to keep an eye on the 2 of them, he also asked someone to investigate Ding Juesi. In the end, he didn't know if he didn't investigate, but he was shocked when he did. It was not a coincidence that Ding Juesi had a mental affair with Wen Jingping. Before this, he had already had a physical affair several times. In order to prevent Mrs. Ding from being deceived by this sanctimonious scum, Su Yiyan asked someone to mail these things to Mrs. Ding on the same day. After Mrs. Ding received it, she didn't seem to have any reaction. Her days went on as usual and she took care of the children as usual. Su Yiyan thought that she had already known about Ding Juesi's affairs outside, but she had endured it for the sake of the children and the family. Who would have thought that she didn't want to endure it? Instead, she had already planned a way out after knowing that she had trusted the wrong person. She had endured it so that she could better collect evidence and wait for the opportunity to give the scumbag a fatal blow. She wanted to kick him out of her world and occupy the moral high ground at the same time. There are indeed not many good men in the Phoenix these days. Chapter 951. Ning Chirue finally came back from the variety show and rushed to Su Yiyan's office immediately. He wanted to talk to Su Yiyan about how she had invited his elder brother to a barbecue party and caused him to starve in the wilderness and suffer from his elder brother's barbecue meal. That was an inhumane tragedy. As a result, he had to deal with such a big melon as soon as he arrived. He was so stunned that he forgot his original purpose for coming here. When he heard Su Yiyan's words, he slowly reacted and muttered in a low voice, "You don't have to blame everyone." Su Yiyan was stunned. She looked up at Ning Chirue and said with a faint smile, "Do you know what it means to be a man with a phoenix? Just take it for granted." Ning Chirue frowned and was a little unconvinced. "I know. Isn't it just a poor guy who marries a wife who is better than him in all aspects? Well, it's not really a marriage. It seems that a large number of people marry into the family. You're right to understand it that way. Su Yiyin smiled at him. But the man with a phoenix I'm talking about is obviously relying on his wife to get rich, but he still has high aspirations. He thinks that he is capable and talented, and even if he doesn't rely on his wife, he can still make a career out of it. While enjoying the benefits brought to him by his wife's family, he also has high aspirations and hates the negative impact it brings. He feels that the various conveniences provided by his wife's family are holding him back, causing him to suffer unnecessary criticism and humiliation. This? Ning Chirue was a little confused by Su Yiyen's explanation. After a long time he muttered, "Is there something wrong with their brains?" Su Yiyen almost couldn't help but laugh out loud. In our eyes there is something wrong with their brains, but in their own eyes, it's reasonable. They take advantage of their wife's family to get promoted step by step. They feel wronged and think that they are such noble people. How can you use money and resources to humiliate me? If you do this, what will people outside think of me? Su Yiyen looked at Ning Chirue's eyes, which had become surprised and panicked at some point, and chuckled. Some people even think that if the tiger doesn't show its power, you really think I'm Hello Kitty. Just you wait until I have a firm foothold in your family. Sooner or later, I will swallow up your family's property. At that time, let's see who dares to look down on me. Ning Chirue was shocked. What kind of terrible and twisted brain circuit was this? Wasn't marrying such a person like her tantamount to inviting a wolf into the house? To put it bluntly, you just don't have the ability and you're still arrogant. He clearly knew that relying on women was embarrassing, but he couldn't resist the temptation of wealth and status. He had enjoyed the joy of being in a high position by relying on a woman. If he wanted to erase his shameful past by relying on a woman, it would be easy for him to resent those who had helped him in the past. Because in their eyes, the existence of these people is a reminder of his disgraceful past. Cutting the flesh of his loved ones, stabbing the knives of the people around him, and then going outside to listen to those who had previously mocked him flatter him in turn to satisfy his selfish and greedy vanity. On the other hand, the woman and her family had contributed money and effort, but they were still resented, hated, and schemed against. They were clearly married, but it was even scarier than becoming enemies. Do you think this kind of person is a good person? No. Ning Chirue hurriedly put his hands into the shape of a propeller. I was wrong. This kind of person is not a good person. Su Yiyen was amused by him. You're right. I just said that there are not many good people. It's not like you're trying to overthrow the whole boat with one pole. Chapter 952. I just think that these people should be more humble. After marrying someone else's daughter, they should take good care of her, not care about the rumors outside, and live a good life as husband and wife. Or they should not rely on the woman's family's help from the beginning. If they feel that they have the ability to climb to a high position and have this ambition, they should rely on their own ability to make a career and work hard to be worthy of the woman. Even if it's hard at first, if you really have the ability, gold will shine sooner or later. When that day comes, who won't sincerely praise you for your ability and praise you for being a golden couple? Su Yiyen did not look down on the poor. On the contrary, she respected and admired those who stuck to the bottom line, had ambition, and relied on their own ability to get out of poverty and become rich. Because such people had no foundation and no background, they had to rely on themselves for everything. The effort and hardship they had to put in was 100 times more than those of the rich. For example, Luo Weibing. He lost his parents when he was young and had a sickly sister. In the face of the heavy pressure of reality and the temptation of sacrificing the bottom line to take a shortcut, he was still able to stick to himself. He relied on his own talent and extraordinary efforts to get to where he was today step by step. After Su Yiyen finished speaking, she glanced at Ning Chirue. The young master of a wealthy family, who had always been well protected, still had a confused expression on his face. She could not help but tease him. What? Do you think I'm wrong? No, you're right. Ning Chirue seemed to wake up from a dream. He touched his nose and said a little guiltily, I just didn't expect Senior Ding to be such a person in private. Senior Ding? Su Yiyen raised her eyebrows and looked surprised. Do you know him? Have you heard of him or met him? Met him. Ning Chirue looked up at Su Yiyen as he spoke, for fear that she would regard him and Ding Juesi as jackals of the same tribe. I met him when I was a guest on a variety show. At that time, Senior Ding was also there. He was the oldest in the group and he took care of us juniors. Oh. Su Yiyen deliberately dragged out her voice, which made Ning Chirue instinctively feel goosebumps on his back. Then have you observed how he treats his agent and assistant? Oh. Ning Chirui pondered for a moment as if he really had not noticed. When Su Yiyin saw his expression, he already had an answer. He threw the information that Xia Junxing had just sent to Ning Chirui. Take a look. This is. Ning Chirui picked up the information and flipped through it. He found that it was all evidence of Ding Juesi beating and scolding his assistant and manager, secretly suppressing newcomers, deliberately leading public opinion to expose the artists in the same batch as him, and publicly acting like a big shot in order to tear down resources. Everything was listed very clearly, making it impossible for anyone to help him clear his name. Oh my God. Ning Chirui's jaw dropped. I really couldn't tell that he was such a person in private. You may know a person for a long time without understanding their true nature. Some people's offstage acting skills are always better than on stage. In this world, there was a kind of person who was very good at putting on a facade. In front of outsiders, they were particularly warm, decent, and helpful, but in front of their acquaintances, they would easily beat, scold, and humiliate them if they were unhappy. It's commonly known as bossy in the nest. Ning Chirui was speechless. I think you are quite unreasonable. President Ho must have been bullied by you at home, right? When Xia Junxing came in with another set of information, he heard these words and could not help but laugh out loud. Chapter 953. Su Yiyin coughed lightly and did not continue to scare the innocent young master. She said seriously, "What's the matter?" "This is the newly sent information." Xia Junxing handed the warm information that he had just received to Su Yiyin. Su Yiyin took it and flipped through it slightly. She sneered and said, "This guy really has a lot of dirt on him. You can find a pile of it just by looking around." Su Yiyin said as she threw the information on the table. "Is Hai still trying to suppress it?" "They tried at first, but there's no movement now." Su Yiyin raised her eyebrows slightly. "No movement?" Hai was planning to give up on these two people. "Then what should we do next?" "Mrs. Ding seems to be preparing to divorce Ding Juesi. If we push too hard at this time, it will be easy for her to do something desperate. Let's give Mrs. Ding some face. We'll temporarily withdraw from this and let the media lead the topic to Wen Jingping." Su Yiyin muttered to herself. "If I remember correctly, the drama in which Wen Jingping is the female lead is going to be broadcast soon. On the eve of the broadcast, the female lead sacrificed herself to attract attention for her debut drama. Even if we're rivals with Hai, we have to admit that she's dedicated to her work. How can we not help her?" Wen Jingping was the female lead of the drama in which she was the female lead. Since the audition, she had been trying to gain popularity for another drama in Su Yiyin's company. From the director, casting, to the end of filming, to the review, and even the recent official announcement of the broadcast, she was sticking to her like a dragon. She could not get rid of her. After knowing this, Su Yiyin did not really understand Do Tianyi's brain circuit. She was using all kinds of methods to seek cooperation, but at the same time she was trying to provoke her own anger. Did she really think that she was a masochist? However, since someone was in a hurry to court death, Su Yiyin had no reason not to help her. On the eve of the broadcast of the main female lead, the female lead was a mistress of a married man. She was a proper White Lotus and green tea bitch. Not to mention the drama itself, just this point alone was enough to make their drama's reputation plummet. After Su Yiyin finished talking about business with Xia Junxing, she turned around and found that Ning Chirui was still there. "Why are you looking for me?" Ning Chirui glanced at Su Yiyin and hesitated. Su Yiyin saw that he was speechless for a long time and was full of suspicion. However, she said, "Speaking of which, I heard from your brother that you recently received a Chinese medicine appointment and needed to go out for a period of time. You're back?" When Ning Chirui heard Su Yiyin mention his brother, the expression on his face became even more sorrowful. He said pitifully, "Yes, boss, you don't know how crazy that variety show is. Let's go to the place where you lied to us about how good it is. The environment is beautiful, the people are simple, and the people are easy to get along with." In the end, I only found out that the environment was indeed quite beautiful. It's just that we lived in thatched huts and wooden houses. They were old and crumbling. On the day that it rained, the rain would leak. It was worse than a cave. There was nothing to eat. Nutrient solutions could only be bought from a place more than 10 kilometers away, and the taste was not good. Other than that, we could only go out and find fruits to eat. The fruits there were sour and astringent, and there was no way to eat them. I almost learned to dig up grass roots to eat. Su Yiyin? Hearing this, it was indeed quite miserable. Didn't they give you any tasks or reward you with some food? If not, there must be someone there, right? Can't you use your face to ask someone to take you in? You also said that the people there are simple and easy to get along with. How could they refuse you? Are they stupid? Chapter 954. Ning Chirui was choked by Su Yiyen's words. He was too embarrassed to tell her that he could not let go of the burden of being an idol, so he took the initiative to go to other people's houses to eat and drink. Ahem. The program team did prepare some tasks, but those tasks were also very crazy. Walking on a tightrope in the air without any safety measures, going up to the roof without breaking a hole. In short, they were tiring and dangerous tasks that were not easy to complete. We were going to participate in a variety show, not a circus. In the end, a few of us tried it, but we all gave up because it was too dangerous. We ate fruit and drank inferior nutrient solution for 3 days and 2 nights. When Ning Chirui said this, his whole person was like a flower bud that had been hit by a storm. He was miserable and haggard and could wither at any time. Su Yiyen heard this and frowned. She said to Xia Junxing, "Contact the director of the program team and tell them that Ning Chirui will not go next time if he does not take safety measures. It's fine if nothing happened this time, but if there is a next time, the legal department of East City will definitely hold them accountable." Generally speaking, this kind of rural experiential variety show was not the same as the kind of adventure variety show, and they would not deliberately sign any safety guarantee agreement. However, in Su Yiyen's view, the few tasks that Ning Chirui had just mentioned were no less dangerous than the adventure variety show. Su Yiyen could understand that the program team would make some strange tasks for the artist to complete for the sake of gimmick, but this did not mean that she could accept the program team's blatant joke about the safety of the artists. After explaining to Xia Junxing, Su Yiyen turned to look at Ning Chirui and comforted him. "You did the right thing. No matter what the situation is, the safety of your life should be the first priority. If you encounter this kind of thing in the future, remember to tell your agent and let your agent report it to the company. There will naturally be people in the company who will support you. If not, there is still your brother, right?" When Ning Chirui heard her say this, his nose twitched and he was a little moved. In this world, apart from his family, Su Yiyen was the first person who said that she would support him. Although Ning Chirui was pampered at home, he was not a spoiled brat. Usually, when he encountered something at work, he would handle it on his own. He would only report the good news and not the bad news. This time, the reason why he deliberately brought up this matter in front of Su Yiyen was that he wanted to act pitiful in front of her and pave the way for what he wanted to say later. Who would have thought? While Ning Chirui was feeling touched, he heard Su Yiyen say with disdain, "You're a rich second-generation heir, but you know how to swallow your pride at this time. Where's the arrogance you had when you dared to give me the cold shoulder the moment we met? Could it be that after falling ill, his personality had softened? Don't forget, I spent a lot of effort to save your life. If something were to happen to you now, who would work for me for the next 9 years? Didn't I suffer a huge loss?" Ning Chirui was speechless. Well, he had to swallow back the feeling of being touched just now. Su Yiyen raised his head and frowned. "Why are you still here? Is there anything else?" Was he asking her to leave just like that? The corner of Ning Chirui's mouth twitched slightly and he said shamelessly, "Ahem, my girlfriend's appetite hasn't been very good recently. She wants to eat something delicious that she hasn't eaten before. I saw that the barbecue and beggar's chicken you made for my brother and the others before were pretty good." Su Yiyen was speechless. After all this time and beating around the bush, it turned out that he was thinking about her family's food. Xia Tolman's girlfriend Ning Shi, who was unexpectedly cute, was speechless. "I'm not a real person, but you're a real dog." Chapter 955. Su Yiyen saw through Ning Chirui's thoughts at a glance and remembered Lan Jie, who came with Yan Xiaoran that day. Lan Jie's girlfriend and Ning Chirui's girlfriend were best friends. Lan Jie must have been preoccupied that day. He did not expect to bring his family, like Ling Xiaoqi did with Ning Xiyuan, so he came with his sister-in-law. After he went back, it was said that he ran to his girlfriend to share his amazing discovery and the many delicacies he had eaten at the family hua that day. Thoughts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The result was obvious. A man who ate alone did not deserve to have a girlfriend. Although the two of them didn't break up, domestic violence was inevitable. One ate alone and went back to show off to his girlfriend, and the other used his girlfriend as an excuse for eating. Amen. Although she complained, in order to make up for Ning Chirui's misery of being forced to eat sour fruits on a variety show and not let him follow in Lan Jie's footsteps, Su Yiyen asked someone to send Ning Chirui some food. However, Since your girlfriend wants to eat, bring it back for your girlfriend. Su Yiyan said and gave Ning Chirui a meaningful and evil smile. Miss Ya has worked with our company before. Brother Junxing should have her contact information. The smile on Ning Chirui's face froze instantly. Having contact information meant that she could contact him at any time, which meant that the lie could be exposed at any time. So, after working so hard for so long, in the end it was all for someone else? Someone who had given him some sunshine withered in an instant. But soon he pulled himself together. His wife loved him so much, so she would definitely not eat alone. They could share the food when he brought it back. He was still lucky. Fortunately, Su Yiyan did not know his inner thoughts, or she would have ridiculed him. Men, sometimes they are astute but sometimes they are terrifyingly naive, conceited. In front of delicious food, what was a boyfriend? Could it be eaten? Su Yiyan asked Xia Junxing to stop for the time being and no longer let people influence the public opinion on the internet. However, the news that Mrs. Ding brought the child back to her parents' house was exposed by other media not long after. Madame Ding's action also caused the righteous passers-by, who were originally wavering and did not know which side to stand on, to instantly switch sides. If you're not having an affair, why would you enter a room with a young and beautiful girl in the middle of the night? If you didn't cheat, why would your wife take the child back to her parents' house in a fit of anger? As it turned out, the more intense the love affair, the more people liked it. The fans, who had been clamoring that Brother Ding doted on his wife so much, would never take a fancy to such a peerless white lotus, were a little confused. They had been arguing on the internet for so long, telling people everywhere about how deeply Ding Juesi loved his wife. In the end, he turned around and angered his wife and son so much that she went back to her parents' home. They couldn't coax her back. Just as Mrs. Ding had said before, although Ding Juesi had entered the entertainment industry early, he only became famous after he married her. On the one hand, Mrs. Ding's family had given him a lot of resources. On the other hand, he had attracted a lot of fans because of his team's hard work and his image as an old cadre. Even if there were some fans of his work, most of them were fans of his work and his wife. Now that his persona had collapsed, those CP fans who only loved his persona felt their hearts turn cold, and they lost a lot of fans. Chapter 956. Ding Juesi's team was extremely anxious when they saw this, especially his manager. When he found out that Mrs. Ding had brought the child back to her parents' house and was determined to divorce Ding Juesi, he was so angry that he almost went into shock on the spot. Is there something wrong with your head? I've reminded you before to pay attention to your image. You're a public figure and a married man. No matter how much you like her, you shouldn't get too close to that woman. You refused to listen and even let someone take photos of the two of you entering the room together. Now everyone thinks that you're having an affair. Even your wife was finally angered back to her parents' house and wants to divorce you. Are you satisfied? The manager circled around Ding Juesi. Didn't you say that the two of you have a good relationship and that she listens to everything you say? Then why are you suddenly getting a divorce? She wants to bring the child back to her parents' house, but you don't know how to coax her. You let her leave just like that and even got photographed. Do you think the current situation isn't chaotic enough? Ding Juesi was scolded by his manager. His face was terrifyingly gloomy, but he did not refute. Ding Juesi's manager scolded for a while and his anger subsided a little. No, this matter can only be resolved with your wife's cooperation. Go and find your wife now. I don't care if you coax her, beg her, or kneel down. You must get her to speak up for you. When the time comes, you can say that because of the incident on the internet, many people are squatting near your house. You're worried that they will hurt your wife and child, so you ask them to temporarily go back to their parents' house to avoid them. There won't be any problems between husband and wife. This way, not only can you solve the current problem, but you can also maintain your image of doting on your wife. Ding Juesi's manager felt that he had thought of a good idea. He looked at Ding Juesi expectantly, hoping that he would do as he said. However, Ding Juesi revealed an awkward expression and did not agree immediately. When the manager saw him like this, his heart could not help but skip a beat. He had an ominous premonition. Is there something important that you haven't told me? Tell me honestly, did your wife really want to divorce you because of this incident? Ding Juesi opened his mouth and hesitated. As if seeing Ding Juesi's hesitation, the manager paced back and forth angrily. It's already time. What else can't you say? Do you really want to kill yourself before you tell me the truth? Ding Juesi had no choice but to briefly explain what he had done all these years. By the way, he could also tell him that his wife already knew about these things, and she probably had evidence on hand. If he chose not to divorce her, she might publicize the evidence in a fit of anger and ruin his reputation. Ding Juexi's manager almost fainted when he heard that. Ding Juexi, hello. Why are you only telling me such an important thing now? He originally thought that Madame Ding had returned to her parents' house in a fit of anger because Ding Juexi had been photographed. If that was the case, it wouldn't be a big problem. After all, Ding Juexi had repeatedly confirmed to him that he did have feelings for Wen Jingping, but he didn't really have sex with her. As long as it wasn't really an affair, he had a way to turn the situation around. But now, before this matter was resolved, a certain someone had exposed a lot of old news for him. It was obvious that Mrs. Ding's plan would not work. The agent gritted his teeth and said, "Now we can only put all the blame on that woman." Ding Juexi was stunned. "What do you mean?" Chapter 957. It was a literal meaning. Now you're not only facing accusations of cheating. If you don't handle this matter well, it's very likely that you as senior will take advantage of a female artist in the industry. If that woman stands up and cries at this time and says that she was forced, your entertainment career will be ruined. Instead of waiting until then, it's better to strike first and gain the upper hand. The manager's so-called strike first and gain the upper hand was actually very simple. It was nothing more than pushing the blame to the woman and hinting that the other party had premeditated seduction. After that, he would logically say that the two of them were in the same room and that the woman had deliberately released false information to hype herself up. After torturing the fans, he would come out to clarify and solidify the fans. He would take the black-red route and then whitewash himself to earn more traffic. At that time, Ding Juexi, who was being used as a tool, would not only be able to whitewash himself, but also gain a wave of sympathy and successfully resolve the crisis. However, what the manager didn't expect was that Ding Juexi, who had been a little numb when he mentioned his wife not long ago, immediately jumped up when he mentioned Wen Jingping as if his Achilles heel had been poked. "No." The manager choked and asked with a dark face, "Why not?" "Anyway, it's just not possible." The manager choked and looked at Ding Juexi suspiciously. He sneered and said, "Don't tell me you've fallen in love with this woman? Even if you have, what are you going to do? Divorce your wife and be with her?" Ding Juexi's face twisted for a moment. He wasn't stupid. Of course, he knew that if he separated from his wife and was with Wen Jingping at this time, he would ruin his future. However, being rational was one thing, and being emotional was something else entirely. Rationality told him that he couldn't do this, but there was a voice in his heart that encouraged him to pursue Wen Jingping. He had to love her and dote on her, but he couldn't hurt her. Just like after his wife brought the child back to her mother's house, Ding Juexi also regretted his impulse and said something like divorce so easily. But more than that, he heaved a sigh of relief. He felt that this was good. This way he could regain his freedom and pursue Wen Jingping openly. When this thought appeared, Ding Juexi himself was shocked, but he couldn't resist the inexplicable temptation. He wanted to slide into the abyss uncontrollably. Ding Juexi's manager saw that he didn't speak for a long time, and his patience was gradually running out. He directly gave an ultimatum. "She can only choose one of you as a star. You choose." The manager thought that if he threatened Ding Juexi with his future, he would definitely choose his career without hesitation. Unexpectedly, Ding Juexi remained silent. In the eyes of the manager, this silence meant that Ding Juexi was willing to give up the reputation and status that he had worked so hard for all these years for a woman. The manager's face darkened completely. He pointed at Ding Juexi and said through gritted teeth, "Good. Ding Juexi, you're really good. Do you really think that the company and I can't do without you? Fine, since you love her so much and want to protect her so much, then you can die with her. I don't care about this anymore. Don't come looking for me even if you regret it in the future. From today onwards, I'm no longer your manager." After saying that, the manager turned around and left. Ding Juexi stood where he was with a livid face. He looked at the manager's back view and felt that something important was leaving him one after another. He had thought of struggling, but as soon as this thought appeared, it was scattered by something invisible. He calmed down and wanted to search again, but the initial struggle had already disappeared. Chapter 958. Ding Juexi's lack of cooperation not only angered his manager, but also the higher-ups in Hai Entertainment who were in charge of public relations. Instead of finding a way to solve such a big problem together, he was dragging them down. He deserved it. The rumors about Ding Juexi and Wen Jingping on the internet were getting more and more intense. In the end, it reached Do Tianyi again. This matter hasn't been resolved yet? Dou Qianni looked at the documents on the table with a dark expression. He usually didn't care about such trivial matters, but he was the one who brought Wen Jingping into the company. And because of her, he registered with Su Yiyan before meeting Su Yiyan. Dou Qianni's attitude towards this woman was really unpredictable. Both of them are artists in our company. It won't look good for our company if we give up either one of them. Liu subconsciously glanced at Dou Qianni. Seeing that he didn't have any special reaction, she continued probing, Wen Jingping has only been in the company for a short time. If we really want to give up on her, she should be the priority. However, the drama she starred in is about to be released soon. Moreover, Ding Jueси doesn't agree. Dou Qianni's eyes turned cold. He instantly grasped the main point. Ding Juesi doesn't agree? Why not? Liu's expression changed slightly. She coughed lightly and said, it's Ding Juesi himself who doesn't agree. He's interested in Wen Jingping? Dou Qianni narrowed his eyes and sneered. For Wen Jingping, he doesn't hesitate to put his career on the line. This love is really touching. If I didn't know that he has a wife and a child, I would really think that he's an infatuated person. The corners of Liu's mouth twitched. She secretly thought that her boss's sarcasm was really good. What infatuated? He doesn't know how to love his wife and child. He only cares about his mistress. To put it bluntly, the so-called deep love was nothing more than lust. Because of this, Ding Juesi fell out with his manager. His manager has already applied to not take him in. Since it's a lord who loves beauties and not his kingdom, then I'll grant him his wish. Let the company release a statement to refute the rumors about their relationship. It doesn't matter if the people outside believe it or not, the company's reputation has to be taken care of. As for whether Ding Juesi could make a comeback in the future, they didn't really care. Without Ding Juesi, there were plenty of newcomers in the company to replace him. No one was irreplaceable. When Liu heard Dou Qianni's words, she heaved a sigh of relief. Ding Jueisi's father-in-law was a small shareholder of Hai Entertainment. Although he didn't have many shares, it was still easy for him to control a small artist. Liu had also heard about the dirty things that Ding Jueisi had done. Madame Ding had brought the child back to her parents' house at the cusp of the storm. It was obvious that she had made up her mind to divorce someone. Anyone would be angry after being cuckolded for so many years. If her boss wanted to protect Ding Ju, it would be troublesome in the future. If he gave up now, it would save him a lot of trouble. However, Miss Wen's new drama is about to start airing soon. If there's such a scandal on the eve of the broadcast, the ratings will probably be affected. As soon as Liu finished speaking, Dou Qianni glanced at her and chuckled. How's the filming of their drama? Have you watched it? No, but it should be okay. Should be? I'll go home tonight and try it out. No need. When the ratings are out, estimate the losses and make her pay. What? Liu's expression changed slightly. Make her pay. Make her pay as much as the drama loses. Chapter 959. I'm afraid she doesn't have that much money. If she doesn't have money, then she'll find a way to earn it. Liu's heart couldn't help but tremble. Back then, Dou Qianni realized that Wen Jingping was special and almost gave in to her every request. Wen Jingping said that she wanted to act and be the female lead. Dou Qianni specially invested in a drama for her and let her, an inexperienced newcomer, enjoy the thrill of privilege. Unfortunately, this special treatment didn't last long. Treasures were called treasures because they were rare and precious. However, when there was a better substitute, could the previous treasures still be considered treasures? The answer was obvious. Liu just didn't expect Dou Qianni to be so ruthless. The script of a big production had a certain degree of risk. Although Liu hadn't watched the finished film before the filming of the drama was completed, he had heard a few old actors complain to the director about how Wen Jingping was slowing down the progress of the production. They were all elites. So how could Liu not tell that they were tactfully complaining to him that Wen Jingping's acting was not good enough and that she could not control the scene? A drama where the female lead couldn't control the scene. It was obvious what would happen when it was aired. When Wen Jingping had made this request to Dou Qianni, she had imagined that she would be like the female lead in the drama and become famous overnight. She had never thought that the drama would eventually turn around and cause her to be caught in a trap and bear a huge debt. Thinking of this, Liu subconsciously glanced at Dou Qianni. Investing in Wen Jingping's drama was considered a big investment for Hai, but to Dou Qianni, it was just a drop in the ocean. No matter what, he had once wanted to treat her differently. Now he could easily push her into the abyss without any psychological burden. His boss really wanted people to live if he loved them, and wanted them to die if he hated them. Because when Jingping and Ding Juesi had delivered themselves to her door, Su Yiyan was in a very good mood for the next few days. Her work efficiency had significantly improved. She got off work on time every day and went home to accompany her child. That day when Su Yiyan returned home, Huo Chenhuan had not yet returned. As soon as she entered the house, she saw the nanny feeding the little guy. As soon as the soft little dumpling saw his mother, he immediately pulled the pacifier out of his mouth and waved his little hands as he cried out. Su Yiyan's heart was instantly pierced. She dropped the things in her hands and rushed over impatiently. She took the little boy from the nanny's arms and rubbed his chubby little round face. "Baby, did you miss your mother today? Mama misses you so much." Perhaps the little fellow was tickled by the rubbing. He giggled and raised his little hand to pat his mother's face. The smile on Su Yiyan's face immediately deepened. She held the little guy's milk bottle and said, "You go do something else first. I'll feed him." The nanny nodded and turned to go outside to pack the clothes and diapers that the baby had worn today. The little guy was quite well behaved in Su Yiyan's arms. At first he stared at Su Yiyan with his big round eyes. Later, perhaps because he was satisfied with the milk and could feel his mother by his side, he began to feel sleepy. However, he stubbornly opened his eyes and looked at Su Yiyan. Su Yiyan found it funny. She took the milk bottle and placed the little guy in the cradle. She turned around and walked to the bookshelf behind her. She wanted to find a few children's books to tell the little guy bedtime stories. The booklet was stuffed in the corner of the cabinet by the family members. Su Yiyan took some effort to pull it out. When she pulled out a book beside it. With a thud, the book fell to the ground. The pages of the book opened and a photo slid out. Chapter 960. Su Yiyan raised her eyebrows and bent down to pick up the photo. When she turned it around, her eyes widened in surprise. In the photo was a 14 or 15-year-old girl wearing a school uniform. She was carrying a school bag and her head was slightly tilted. She seemed to have seen something and was smiling very happily. The reason why Su Yiyan was surprised was not because of how beautiful the girl in the photo was or how happy she was smiling, but because the girl in the photo was her in junior high school. Su Yiyan knew that Huo Chenhuan had liked her for a long time in her previous life. After marrying into the family Hua, she often took advantage of Huo Chenhuan's absence to rummage through the house to see if there was anything related to her hidden in the house. Unfortunately, Huo Chenhuan had a talent for hiding things. Su Yiyan couldn't find anything after searching for so long. Su Yiyan thought that he had already dealt with these things before she entered the family Hua. She didn't expect, "Ah wu, ah wu." The little guy was unwilling to be left out and called out, drawing Su Yiyan's attention back. Su Yiyan took a few children's books and the book that fell out to the side of the cradle and smiled. "Did you wait long? Mom will tell you a story now." When Huo Chenhuan returned home, Su Yiyan had already coaxed the little guy to sleep. "You're back?" Huo Chenhuan looked at his wife in the living room with a bright smile as she waited for him to return. The gloominess and coldness on his face faded in an instant and was replaced by a gentle smile. "Yes." Huo Chenhuan held Su Yiyan's hand and looked around. "Where's the baby?" "He just drank milk and fell asleep." Su Yiyan suddenly got up. "I have something to tell you. Let's go upstairs." Huo Chenhuan looked puzzled but still obediently accompanied her upstairs. "Tell me the truth. What's with this photo?" Huo Chenhuan was a little surprised when she saw the photo. She took it and looked at it, then asked with a smile, "Where did you find this? You forgot where you put it?" "There are too many things and the real person is already in front of me. Compared to the rigid photos, I prefer the moving and smiling version of you." Su Yiyan was slightly startled. She looked into Huo Chenhuan's deep and affectionate eyes. Her face couldn't help but feel a little hot, but she said, "Humph, don't think that you can change the topic by saying these sweet words. If you confess, you'll be lenient. If you resist, you'll be strict. Tell me what's with this picture. Apart from this one, do you have—" Huo Chenhuan looks at his little wife's gradually blushing face and deliberately teases her. "Is it what?" Su Yiyan glared at him angrily. "Do you have other photos or something else? Come with me." "Huh?" Su Yiyan blinked and followed Huo Chenhuan to the third floor. The third floor of the family Hua seemed to be Huo Chenhuan's parents' room. After Huo Chenhuan's parents passed away, the third floor was sealed off. Except for a period of time when Uncle Zhang personally went upstairs to clean, no one else went upstairs. Su Yiyan followed Huo Chenhuan to the third floor. After walking for a while, they stopped in front of a small old room. This room was located at the end of the corridor on the third floor. right above Hua Qinhuan's toy room. Hua Qinhuan added 3 locks to this small room. After manually entering the password and verifying fingerprints and facial recognition, the door opened with a click. Such a complicated decryption process was enough to show that the owner of the room valued this room. Su Yiyan was also very curious about this room. What exactly was in there? Chapter 961. Let's go in. Hua Qinhuan's words jolted Su Yiyan out of her daze. She nodded and pushed the door open eagerly. Even though Su Yiyan was mentally prepared, she was still shocked by the pile of things in the room. Other than the photos, Su Yiyan even saw a few things that she had discarded after graduation. Su Yiyan was embarrassed and almost couldn't help but ask Hua Qinhuan, "Are you a pervert? You even want the things that I threw away?" Fortunately, Hua Qinhuan still had some integrity. The things that she collected were relatively ordinary and nothing too personal. Otherwise, Su Yiyan would have dug a hole and buried herself in it. Su Yiyan walked around the room as if she was searching for treasures. She could still recognize some of the things that were relatively recent, but there were also some that she couldn't remember. However, with the lesson of the past, Su Yiyan felt that even if the things in here didn't belong to her, they were definitely related to her. Needless to say, Hua Qinhuan even had her graduation photos from junior high school, and even university. The degree of completeness was not inferior to her, the owner of the photos. It was simply amazing. Su Yiyan went from being surprised to being embarrassed to being numb. Finally, she sighed subtly. Unbeknownst to her, there was someone who had been paying attention to her and had never taken his eyes off her. If it were someone else, Su Yiyan would only feel her hair stand on end. However, when it came to Hua Qinhuan, she only felt heartache and sadness when she thought about all the things that they had gone through in their previous lives. That was why people said that people had double standards. Those who were favored were always fearless. Su Yiyan walked around and suddenly seemed to have discovered something. She walked to the table in the middle of the room and stood still. She frowned and said, "Why does this specimen look so strange? And this thing was also related to her? Why didn't she have any impression of it?" Hua Qinhuan saw that Su Yiyan had noticed the specimen and her eyes flashed. He walked to Su Yiyan's side and smiled faintly. "Have you forgotten? This is a gift from you. I gave it to you?" Su Yiyan blinked with a blank face. "When did I give you this?" "In front of the cake shop in the south of the city, did you give a bunch of dried flowers to a strange little brother?" Su Yiyan was stunned, and the expression on her face changed from confusion to shock. "You're that little brother? At that time it was you who saved me." When Su Yiyan was almost 12 years old, she went out to play with her classmates. However, she was targeted by a group of outlaws who wanted to kidnap her and ask her family for a ransom. Although Su Yiyan was young at that time, she was not stupid. She realized that something was wrong and immediately sent a message for help to her family. Then she and her friends split up and ran toward a crowded area. But at the time she was only an 11 or 12-year-old child. There was no way she could outrun an adult man who had traveled extensively. Just as those people were about to catch up with her, a car stopped in front of Su Yiyan. A handsome little brother rolled down the car window and asked her in a low voice if she needed help. Su Yiyan could not explain why she trusted him so easily when she was surrounded by danger. Perhaps it was because the car did not look like an ordinary car, or perhaps it was because the smile on the young man's face was too warm and kind. She got into the car in a daze. Fortunately, the little brother did not betray her trust. He comforted her gently along the way. After confirming her condition, he sent her to a safe place and waited for her family to pick her up. "That person was actually you." Su Yiyan turned to look at Hua Qinhuan in surprise. It was as if she wanted to find some traces of the past on his face. Chapter 962. At that time, Su Yiyan was more than 11 years old, and Hua Qinhuan was only 15 or 16 years old. They must have looked different when they were young. In addition, Hua Qinhuan's family had not suffered any major changes at that time. He was a happy, gentle young man. The feeling he gave off was completely different from when they met again after they grew up. There was also, "I was young at that time and I was frightened. After I went back I fell ill. I remember you but I don't remember what you looked like, so I didn't recognize you." Children's memories were blurred, and after so many years the two of them had grown up. It was not easy to change the old impression, so Su Yiyan had never thought about it. "I know. I don't blame you." Su Yiyan pursed her lips and asked tentatively, "Did you start to like me then? Love at first sight?" "That's not it. I just thought you were very cute." How could she not be cute? At that time, Su Yin's face still had baby fat and she was still young. She looked small and cute. Su Yin breathed a sigh of relief and was a little disappointed. Really? Really? Huo Chenhuan knew what Su Yin was thinking. She scratched her nose and said helplessly, I'm not crazy enough to have bad thoughts about a child. Su Yin blushed and did not dare to continue asking. She pulled the topic back to the specimen in front of her. I remember that I gave you a small bouquet of dried flowers. The flowers were blue. It was the finished product of my first home handicraft project. Yes, I know. You told me when you gave it to me. Then why is this flower red? And it was made into a specimen. That's my blood. Su Yin's eyes narrowed. She froze for a while before she said with difficulty, Your blood? You said that the blood on it is your blood? Yes. How did you get it? The blood looks so much and so deep. Wait. Su Yin's gaze suddenly fell on Huo Chenhuan's legs. Could it be? Huo Chenhuan saw the change in her expression. He took the initiative to hold her slightly cold hand and said in a hoarse voice, On the way back that day, I had a car accident. That was the darkest day of Huo Chenhuan's life. She and her parents had both died. If Zheng Qianyang hadn't rushed back in time to take control of the situation, he would have died long ago. Even if he survived, his legs would have been amputated long ago. It was impossible for him to survive until the day Su Yin treated him. Su Yin subconsciously tightened her grip on Huo Chenhuan's hand. Did you get into an accident because you were sending me there? No. Before Su Yin could finish, Huo Chenhuan interrupted her. Even if I didn't send you off, I would have gotten into a car accident that day. That car accident was not an accident. Not an accident? Su Yin's face turned pale. She subconsciously grabbed Huo Chenhuan with her other hand. You mean that the car accident that caused your legs was not an accident but a man-made one? Who was it? Who wanted to hurt you? Huo Chenhuan didn't answer. Su Yin bit her lip and tried to calm herself down. Was it the people who hurt your parents? Or Huo Qihan? Who was it? Tell me. After Su Yin's questioning, the room fell into a dead silence again. Just when Su Yin thought that Huo Chenhuan might not have found out or didn't intend to tell her, she suddenly heard Huo Chenhuan reply coldly, It was them. Chapter 963. Them? Su Yin's eyes were red as she looked at Huo Chenhuan. Huo Chenhuan looked at her pleading eyes, but in the end she couldn't harden her heart to hide the truth from the person in front of her. It's Huo Qihan and those people. Huo Qihan and those people? Su Yin didn't expect to get such an answer. She was stunned for a while before she asked tentatively, Did Huo Qihan and those people want to harm you or did they harm you together? This question seemed to be the same, but there was a big difference when it came to the truth. Different routes to the same destination, or did they work together to harm her? If it was the former, it would be fine, but if it was the latter, thinking of the real cause of Huo Chenhuan's parents' death, Su Yin couldn't help but feel a chill down her spine. They did it together, didn't they? Huo Qihan has been in touch with them for a long time and your parents. It's also their fault. Su Yin finally couldn't help crying. She felt sorry for Huo Chenhuan's hardships, but she was even angrier at someone's madness. For money and power he could even harm his own family. How could he do that? Those are your parents and also his parents. How could he be so cruel to kill them? He killed his parents and murdered his own brother. Isn't he afraid of retribution? No. What? My parents are not his and I'm not his brother. Su Yin suddenly widened her eyes and looked at Huo Chenhuan in disbelief. You mean Huo Qihan is not? He's just my parents' adopted son. Adopted son? How could that be? Why have I never heard of this? Not many people know about this. My parents fell in love freely and they were abroad for a long time. Later, because of some things, they came back to develop and founded the Huo Corporation. Huo Chenhuan paused and sighed. My mother liked children very much. They were married for 2 or 3 years and didn't use contraception, but she couldn't get pregnant. Only then did my parents realize that something was wrong and did a detailed examination. The conclusion was that my grandmother had an accident when she was pregnant with my mother, causing my mother to be born prematurely and congenitally deficient. Although she recovered later, it may be a little difficult for her to bear an heir. So, they adopted a child? Yes. Huo Chenhuan's voice was a little dull. Huo Qihan was already 5 or 6 years old when he was adopted by my parents. My parents were worried that his identity was sensitive and that what outsiders said would affect the child's mood and future growth, so they strictly ordered the family not to spread this matter. To outsiders, they only said that Huaqihan was their biological child and that they had raised him abroad before he grew up. At that time, the Hua Corporation had just started and hadn't really made a name for itself yet. The outside world also didn't pay much attention to their family, so no one suspected anything. Huaqihan himself and Hua were also uncles, and they were relatives. After Hua Qinhuan's parents passed away, the descendants of Hua Qinhuan's uncles, such as Zui Yanbai and Gu Xiaoyang, also gradually learned about this matter. Therefore they were disgusted and angry with Huaqihan's family. Firstly, it was because they grew up with Hua Qinhuan and had more feelings for him than for Huaqihan's family. Secondly, they also felt that Huaqihan did not have the family whose blood flowing in his veins, and he was not as capable as Hua Qinhuan. However, with the old master's will, he effortlessly obtained the Hua Corporation. No matter how they looked at it, it felt like a turtle dove had taken over the magpie's nest and robbed Hua Qinhuan of his belongings. Chapter 964. After listening to Hua Qinhuan's explanation, Su Yiyan understood. It was no wonder that no one had mentioned it for so many years. It was no wonder that Huaqihan, who was only the adopted son of the family Hua, had been able to control the Hua Corporation for so many years. No one had used his identity as the adopted son to attack him or drag him down. If it had been an ordinary wealthy family, even if the parents wanted to hide it, they would have more or less leaked some information. However, the family Hua did not. From this, it could be seen that Hua Qinhuan's parents really treated Huaqihan as their own son. They had considered everything for him. Unfortunately, he did not deserve it. You just said that it was not easy for your parents to have a child. It was not easy to have a child, but it was not impossible. When Hua Qinhuan said this, his expression softened a little. My mother was almost 50 when she was pregnant with me. She was really in advanced maternal age. My father was worried that it would be dangerous for her to give birth to me, so he did not intend to have a child from the beginning. However, my mother refused. She felt that since God allowed her to be pregnant with me at this time, there must be a reason. Since she was pregnant, she would give birth to me. It was not like she could not afford to raise me. When Hua Qinhuan said this, he couldn't help but laugh. Because of this, my mother almost divorced my father. Of course, my father did not agree. He could only compromise and promise my mother to give birth to me. When I grew up, my father often talked about this in my ear. He felt that I had ruined their relationship. They had been married for so many years and had never quarreled. However, because of this, my mother actually divorced him. Of course, he said it in a joking tone. However, Hua Qinhuan could not help but smile when he thought of that jealous look on his mother's face. Su Yiyan was affected by his emotions and smiled as well. However, at the same time she felt a little regretful. If she could have lived in the same era as Mother Hua, she might have been able to help her have her own child. In that case, they might not have adopted Huaqihan, and a lot of things would not have happened later. But on second thought, if things really went as she wished, she would not be able to meet Hua Qinhuan at the right time and be with him. In this world there were always gains and losses. It was difficult to have the best of both worlds. After learning that Huaqihan was not part of the family Hua's bloodline and was only an adopted son, Su Yiyan's heart grew heavier. Some of her previous doubts were finally answered. No wonder you're not close to him. Did he bully you since you were young? She acts one way in front of your parents and another way in front of you? Hua Qinhuan saw that his little wife's face was full of heartache. She looked at him as if she was looking at a pitiful little girl who had been oppressed and bullied since childhood. While feeling helpless, she also felt a little sweet from being cared for. Actually, I didn't spend much time with him. When I was young, he was quite nice to me. He would celebrate my birthday with me and buy me toys. Unfortunately, he later married his wife. My mother did not get along with that woman. For Huaqihan's sake, she could not have a conflict with that woman. My father could not bear to see my mother wronged, so he often took my mother and me out to the small villa on the top of the mountain that I took you to before. Now that she thought about it, it seemed that the relationship within their family had become inexplicably tense since that woman had married into the family. Although there was no substantial conflict, it was this kind of hidden undercurrent that made people feel even more oppressed, and gradually drifted further and further away. Chapter 965. Over the Years, Hua Qinhuan had always felt that Huaqihan's wife was the reason why their family had turned out the way it did. Therefore, when Hua Xiaofeng ran away with Mrs. Hua Qinhuan had asked someone to tamper with them. They would not die, but it would be impossible for the mother and son to live as luxurious a life as before. Even after learning that his parents had an accident and that Hua Qihan was involved, Hua Qinhuan's thoughts had not changed. Until today, this afternoon I went to see Hua Qihan. Su Yiyan was stunned. You went to see Hua Qihan? Yes. Su Yiyan's attention instantly returned to the original topic. Is it because of your parents? Is it because of you? No, when did you find out about this? A few days ago, I went to see Xue Xiaofeng. Xue Xiaofeng? You mean the woman who has a grudge against Hua Qihan? Yes. Hua Qinhuan was silent for a moment and said thoughtfully, she gave me a recording of Hua Qihan's conversation with those people, and the recording mentioned the death of my parents. Su Yiyan narrowed her eyes and instantly understood. She wants to use you to deal with Hua Qihan? She not only wants Hua Qihan to go to jail, but also wants him to die. Hua Qihan was already letting him off easy by only asking him to pay for one of the 3 lives in the family. Su Yiyan did not doubt it. Compared to this, she was more concerned about, you didn't even tell me such an important thing. Hua Qinhuan held Su Yiyan's hand that was pointing at her and explained in a low voice, you know that my uncle has been looking for that group of people for so many years, but every time there is a clue, it will be cut off halfway. So this time, we plan to use Hua Qihan as bait to fish out those people. This matter needs to be kept secret, and it is not suitable for too many people to know. Besides, I didn't go to Hua Qihan before, so I couldn't tell you about this. Su Yiyan was angry because she was worried about Hua Qinhuan's involvement. After listening to his explanation, her worry had suppressed her initial anger. She said anxiously, how are you going to use Hua Qihan as bait to lure those people out? Will it be dangerous? Jing Qinyang's job was special. Someone who could make an enemy of him couldn't be an ordinary villain. As long as Su Yiyan thought that Hua Qinhuan's parents died because of these people, and that Hua Qinhuan's leg could not be separated from them, her heart could not stop thumping and she felt uneasy. I'm fine. Hua Qinhuan knew what she was worried about. Uncle is better at this. He will send someone to deal with this. I won't do anything. Su Yiyan breathed a sigh of relief when she heard that, but she was still worried. What about Uncle? Will he be all right? Nothing will happen to Uncle. These people targeted my parents and me because they couldn't touch Uncle back then. They couldn't hurt Uncle back then, and it's even more impossible now. That's good. Su Yiyan's face looked better. But will Hua Qihan cooperate? When you went to see him today, did he scold you? How do you know that he scolded me and not the other way around? How can such a reasonable person like you scold others? If you ask me, a crazy person like him shouldn't talk so much to him. If you can do something, you shouldn't talk nonsense. But now that he's locked up in the police station, you can't do anything to him. You can only scold him. Su Yiyan glanced at him with disappointment. You can't beat him when it comes to scolding people. Chapter 966. Hua Qinhuan reached out and pinched Su Yiyan's face. She smiled faintly and said, I didn't scold him, but I made him so angry that he wanted to hit me. Su Yiyan's eyes lit up slightly and she suddenly became energetic. Hua Qinhuan's lips curled up slightly, and she unconsciously recalled the scene of her meeting with Hua Qihan in the afternoon. When Hua Qihan learned that Hua Qinhuan had come to find him, he first went crazy inside, and then scolded her for a while. He refused to come out to meet Hua Qinhuan. After Hua Qinhuan knew what he had done inside, she only asked someone to bring him a sentence. Don't you want to know why you lost so badly? This sentence obviously irritated Hua Qihan. He came out, but as soon as he came out, he struggled to break out of prison. He bared his fangs and brandished his claws at Hua Qinhuan with a ferocious face, as if he wanted to swallow her in front of everyone. It's you, isn't it? You sent that bitch, didn't you? I should have thought of it, I should have thought of it. You beast bastard. The people who brought Hua Qihan out almost couldn't catch him. They were also a little angry and warned him, be honest, don't force us to do it. Given that Hua Qihan was too agitated and had a certain level of violence, in order to ensure Hua Qinhuan's safety, they finally decided to change the room between them with bulletproof glass. No matter how hard Hua Qihan scratched Hua Qinhuan, he couldn't hurt her at all. You're right. I do know Xue Xiaoyu, and I provided her with the information so that she could find the right time to come to your side. She broke up your family, broke up your wife and children, and made you a rat despised by everyone. As soon as Hua Qinhuan's words came out, Hua Qihan stood up and beat the glass while cursing, It's really you. How dare you do this, how dare you? Why wouldn't I dare? Hua Qinhuan sneered and looked at Hua Qihan indifferently. It's a matter of course to repay a debt. That year, you used illegal means to take away the land from Xue Xiaoyu's father, causing the destruction of Xue Xiaoyu's family and the loss of 3 lives. Now she is just taking revenge. When you did all this, didn't you think you would end up like this? This was called the cycle of karma and retribution. You deserve it. Huo Qinhuan's last 3 words were like a sharp arrow that pierced straight into Huo Qihan's heart, making his face even more ashen. Retribution? What kind of retribution was this? The business world was like a battlefield. Her father was too naive. He thought that everything would be fine once he got that piece of land, and he didn't have any ability to restrain his subordinates. That was why someone had taken advantage of the loophole. It was his own stupidity. Who else could he blame? In the business world, it was normal for the winner to be the king and the loser to be the bandit. As for their illness, death, and suicide, it was just their own psychological quality that was not good enough. How could you blame me? Oh, then according to what you said, the reason why you ended up like this was because you lost to me in a business game. The winner is the king and the loser is the bandit. It has nothing to do with anyone. You deserve it. Huo Qihan choked, but his voice suddenly rose. I knew that you had never given up the Huo family. You were never willing to admit that your parents left the company to me instead of you. You were bent on taking the company back from me. You had this idea when you were still disabled. Now that you have recovered, you won't let go of such a good thing. If I had known this, I wouldn't have let you go in the first place. Chapter 967. Was it because you were soft-hearted? Huo Qinhuan raised her eyebrows and looked at him mockingly. It was because you didn't find the right time to do it. If uncle hadn't come back in time, you would have done it to me, right? Hearing Huo Qinhuan mention Zheng Qianyang, Huo Qihan seemed to have been splashed with cold water and instantly calmed down. I don't know what you're talking about. Huo Qihan's eyes wandered, and he obviously felt guilty. Huo Qinhuan had already seen through this person's nature, so she was not surprised. It doesn't matter if you don't know. It's fine as long as I know. Huo Qihan's heart thumped, and he looked at Huo Qinhuan with a guilty panic in his eyes. He intuitively felt that Huo Qinhuan might have known something. Sure enough, the next second Huo Qinhuan took out a recording pen. Huo Qihan initially did not know what Huo Qinhuan wanted to do. It was not until his voice came from the recording pen that Huo Qihan's expression finally changed. How did you get this? It's that B*TC. That B*TC gave it to you? Huo Qihan's face turned red, and he looked at Huo Qinhuan with regret and resentment. If I had known this, I wouldn't have taken her with me because of our past relationship. Huo Qinhuan heard him say this and sneered. After so many years you're still so sanctimonious. You always take a woman with you when you flee. Isn't it because she makes you feel smug and fully satisfies your vanity as a man? Do you want to prove that you're not a traitor, that there are still people who love you wholeheartedly, not for your name, not for your money? The last layer of cover was removed, and Huo Qihan's face was distorted. If the two of them were not separated by a thick layer of bulletproof glass, Huo Qihan would have desperately rushed over to Huo Qinhuan and perished together. I don't want to talk about her anymore. It's a fact that you lost to a woman. This is something you can't change no matter how you deny it. Now, shouldn't you first explain to me who you were talking to on the phone in this recording and what happened back then? Huo Qihan never thought that his phone call with those people would be discovered, let alone that what happened back then would be exposed. His face turned green and white. After a long while, he replied perfunctorily, It's just some hooligans I provoked in the early years. They couldn't wait to come over and step on me when they saw that I was down and out. Don't you know the feeling of a tiger being bullied by a dog when it's down? So, it's the local ruffians that you got into trouble with in your early years. Huo Qinhuan pondered for a moment before chuckling. What kind of hooligan is he? How could he threaten you? Even when you were still the head of the Huo Corporation, you were so afraid of them and were willing to be blackmailed by them. What they know must be some big secret, right? For example, Huo Qinhuan looked directly into Huo Qihan's eyes, and the warmth in her eyes dissipated little by little. My parents' death back then was related to you. Huo Qihan's face changed drastically. He stood up and knocked over the chair behind him. What nonsense are you talking about? My parents' death was an accident. Don't think that you can pin such an inexplicable charge on me just because I've been kicked out of the Huo Corporation by you. My parents' death had nothing to do with me. Just based on this recording, they wanted to pin this groundless crime on me. Huo Qinhuan, do you really think that you can do whatever you want just because you have the Huo Corporation now? Chapter 968. You keep talking about the whole corporation. Is the whole corporation really that important? Wuxihan was stunned. Then, as if he had heard a big joke, he laughed crazily. That's easy for you to say. Now that the whole corporation is in your hands, as you just said, the winner takes all. You are the winner now, so naturally you can say whatever you want. If the whole corporation is not important, why did you spend so much effort to let that be *tch come to me to sow discord between my family and unite the company's shareholders to vote me down? Do you know what's the difference between people? It's money. Money can help me become the best person in the world. With money I can do anything, buy anything I want, and enjoy any special treatment that ordinary people can't enjoy. Without money you are like the mud on the ground. The mud can't support the wall and anyone can come and step on you. Not to mention enjoying any special treatment, even the most basic fairness and the most basic respect can't be given to you. Huo Chenhuan looked at him indifferently. So, this is the reason why you were so cruel to Dad, Mom, and me? I said that Dad and Mom's death was an accident. And don't forget. Huo looked up at Huo Chenhuan, his eyes full of malice. Dad died in your hands. You killed him with your own hands. Huo Chenhuan's eyes were slightly cold, and she glanced at Huo coldly. Huo heart trembled, but he also knew that this was his only chance to attack Huo Chenhuan. He gritted his teeth and said stubbornly, Am I wrong? Dad had a chance to be saved at that time. It was you who pulled off his oxygen mask. You killed him with your own hands. Now you want to push the blame onto me? No way. Yes, I pulled off Dad's oxygen mask and watched him die with my own eyes. I admit it. Huo Chenhuan looked calm, as if what she had just said was just a normal thing. But this doesn't mean that what you did can be forgotten. I got this recording a few days ago. Do you know why I came to you today? Huo Chenhuan's expression changed slightly, and the ominous premonition in his heart was magnified infinitely. As expected, the next second Huo Chenhuan said coldly, Because these past few days, Uncle has been trying to track down all the numbers in your hands and check the call records of those people you've been with all these years. You. Huo Chenhuan saw the fear in Huo eyes, and the sarcasm on her face intensified. Do you really think that you've dealt with those things so cleanly that no one can find out? For you to be able to hide until today, you should be glad that the people you're working with aren't ordinary people. You should also be glad that you're my parents' adopted son. Because of this layer of identity, Uncle has never suspected you, and has never thought that you would collude with his enemy to harm your own family. Otherwise, with Zheng Qinha's connections, background, and sensitivity to such clues, he would never have been able to get away with it until now. Huo Chenhuan had once been suspicious of Huo, but his connections in this area were limited, and the resources he could mobilize were relatively scarce. In addition, it had been a long time, so there was not much information to be found, and it could not be linked to the person in front of her. So, it was left unsettled. Thinking of this, Huo Chenhuan looked up at the man she had once called brother and asked the question she cared about most. Why did you do this? Chapter 969. You're asking me why I'm doing this? Huo knew that Zheng Qianyang had intervened and he was afraid that he could not escape this time. He finally began to throw caution to the wind and no longer tried to evade the blame like before. Ha 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 ha. Huo suddenly laughed. It was unknown whether he was laughing at Huo Chenhuan's words or at himself. Why would I do this? Do you still need to ask? Of course it's because of you. Huo Chenhuan narrowed her eyes and did not speak. Adopted son, adopted son, adopted son. Do you know what I can't stand the most? I can't stand people saying that I'm the adopted son of the family Hua and you're the noble young master of the family Hua. No one has ever mentioned the adopted son in front of you. Father and mother never allowed anyone to mention it. Even I only found out about it by chance when I grew up. Before Huo Chenhuan could finish, Huo suddenly raised his voice and interrupted him. It's true that no one mentioned this in front of me, but the way they looked at you and me, their actions and their expressions all told me this. What? Why did they deny all my years of hard work as soon as you appeared? Why did I have to be reduced to a background of ridicule as long as you were around? Because you have the blood of the family Hua flowing in your veins and I was just adopted? Huo did not know when he started having these thoughts. He only knew that he was holding back his anger in his heart, but he did not dare to vent or resist because he was afraid. He was afraid that once he showed the slightest bit of negative emotions, he would be called ungrateful and be driven back to the dark place by his parents where he could not even eat his fill. Mother Hua had been feeling this way ever since she was pregnant with Huo Chenhuan. However, at that time, the two adults in the family were very considerate of his feelings. They repeatedly stated that his younger brother's arrival would not cause any changes to the family, nor would it affect him in any way. He was still the eldest son they loved and cared about the most. It was just that in the near future this family would have one more family member who could live and grow up with him. Wuxia believed him and quickly adjusted his mindset. However, the fear and inferiority that were buried deep in their bones were not so easily dispelled by a few words, especially when there was a fuse beside them. It was even easier for these negative emotions to go out of control. Not long after Huo Chenhuan was born, Wuxia got married and married his girlfriend, who later became Mrs. Huo. Mrs. Huo was willing to marry Wuxia because they had feelings for each other. However, Wuxia's family background was obviously a factor that the woman and her family were more concerned about. The family Huo had kept Wuxia's identity a secret, so when Mrs. Huo married into the family Huo, she did not know about it at all. However, they saw each other every day and got along with each other day and night. Mrs. Huo eventually discovered this big secret and her expression changed. Wuxia still remembered how his wife had run to him excitedly after learning the truth. She was angry and sad, crying as if the sky had collapsed. She had even said a lot of unpleasant things, shouting that she wanted to divorce him and return to her parents' home. That was a thorn in Wuxia's heart and the first thorn that caused the series of tragedies that followed. Fortunately, Mrs. Huo did not make a fuss for long because she found out that she was pregnant. Chapter 970. Mrs. Huo's impulsive declaration of divorce was declared bankrupt because of the arrival of this child, which also allowed her to calm down. She felt that she couldn't just sit and wait for death. Even if it wasn't for herself, she had to make plans for the child in her belly. It was also from then on that Mrs. Huo began to have frequent conflicts with Huo Chenhuan's mother. Every time there was a conflict, Huo Chenhuan's father would take his wife and youngest son out for a few days, leaving Wuxia to comfort and educate his wife. Unexpectedly, their departure gave Mrs. Huo an opportunity to take advantage of. Mrs. Huo began to brainwash Wuxia in various ways, saying all kinds of bad things about Huo Chenhuan's family of three. At first, Wuxia would scold her a little when he heard her say these things. Later, after hearing more, he inevitably had a knot in his heart about the three of them. In particular, as Huo Chenhuan grew up, his appearance became more and more similar to the couple's. It was almost as if he had grown up according to their strengths. When he was young, people around him only thought that he was cute. When he grew up a little, everyone's focus began to change. More than once, Wuxia heard family Huo and his wife praise Huo Chenhuan's good looks at banquets. They even asked Huo Chenhuan in a roundabout way if he already had someone he liked. If not, there was a girl in their family who was about the same age as Huo Chenhuan. They could arrange a time to meet and get to know each other. After that, Huo Chenhuan grew up a little. Family Huo and his wife would occasionally bring him along when they attended banquets. Some people saw this and thought that the two of them doted on their youngest son more. They began to flatter Huo Chenhuan unabashedly in order to get on the family Huo's good side. They even used Wuxia as a comparison. They said that Wuxia, the eldest son, was already so outstanding and Huo Chenhuan, the youngest son, was even more outstanding. The family Huo was really blessed. Although he knew that most of these words were just flattery, Wuxia still felt uncomfortable when they fell on his ears. However, this only made Wuxia unhappy. What really made him explode and have the intention to kill the three members of the Huo family was because of another matter. No one is denying your hard work. You're the one who's stuck in a dead end. That's easy for you to say. You've never been in my shoes, and you've experienced everything that I've experienced. Of course you can say something like that so easily. When everyone denies you, when everyone who was originally on your side decisively abandons you when they have a better choice, and when everything that originally belonged to you disappears overnight, will you not go down a dead end? Do you think all of this doesn't matter? Huo Chenhuan listened to Wuxia's eloquent complaints. She did not feel sorry for him at all. Instead, she felt sorry for herself and her parents. When you're complaining that they gave birth to a child to compete with you for the family property and resenting that my birth took away a part of your attention, you've never thought that everything you have was originally given to you by them. They have never mistreated you, nor have they ever thought of abandoning you. Even their love for you has never decreased because of my appearance. You're too greedy. You want everything. You only want to ask, but you're unwilling to give in at all. Even I've never thought of competing with you. Do you still need to compete? Your existence itself is the biggest threat to me. It was your appearance that shattered my dreams and the balance of our family. If it weren't for you, our family would still be fine. I'm their only son and the child that they're most proud of. Chapter 971. The more Wuxia spoke, the more agitated he became, as if he wanted to vent all the dissatisfaction and grievances that had been buried in his heart over the years. Everything is ruined because of you. If only you had never appeared. As long as you didn't appear, none of this would have happened. Your existence itself is a mistake. Mom shouldn't have given birth to you. Huoqinhuan's face darkened slightly. She knew that she couldn't talk to this kind of person who only thought from the perspective of his own interests. She only said with a sullen face, Mom and Dad shouldn't have adopted you back then. No, it's not that they shouldn't have adopted me. It's that they shouldn't have had you after adopting me and given birth to you at all costs. When they adopted me, they promised me that I would be their only child for the rest of their life. What happened in the end? They lied to me first and they didn't keep their promise first. Since they can't keep their words, they might as well not have said it in the first place. Huoqinhuan listened to him calmly. She knew that in Huoqihan's eyes she was the so-called imaginary enemy and the one with vested interests. No matter how much she said, it was just a high-sounding excuse. But this didn't mean that he wasn't angry when he heard these words. Just because they didn't keep their promise and didn't get rid of me in time, you want to kill them? Huoqihan, when Mom was pregnant with me, you were already in your 20s, not a 3-year-old child. They raised you for more than 10 years. Even if you have opinions and dissatisfaction with them, you shouldn't hurt them. Huoqihan gritted his teeth and didn't speak. Huoqinhuan saw this and felt even more indignant for her parents. Her face darkened a little. Yesterday I went to visit Lawyer Zhang, who has retired. Lawyer Zhang, whom Huoqinhuan mentioned, used to be the head of the Hua Group's legal department. He was about the same age as Huoqinhuan's deceased father. Some of the more important contracts within the Hua Group had to be drafted by him. This included the will left by Huoqinhuan's father. Huoqihan trembled, and his hand unconsciously grabbed the corner of the table. Back then, you were so anxious to harm the three of us that you didn't even hesitate to cooperate with those outlaws. It's because you heard from someone that Dad is going to change his will for the second time. You're worried that Dad will leave everything to me and not you. That's why you took the risk and wanted to get rid of all of us to prevent future trouble, right? Huoqihan did not expect this matter to be brought up. He lowered his head slightly and looked directly at the table. His face was full of unwillingness. Then do you know what the contents of Dad's revised will are? What else could it be? Huoqihan smiled sarcastically. You're his biological son. He values you so much and Mom loves you so much. Naturally, she would leave all the good things for you. Huoqinhuan didn't explain. She just shoved a document through a small window that was less than a centimeter high under the glass. Huoqihan looked at the documents that appeared in front of him. For some reason he suddenly felt an inexplicable fear. It was as if there was a scourge hidden here. Once the seal was broken he would never be able to escape. Don't you want to take a look? Huoqihan hesitated for a moment, but still reached out to the document. He had nothing left now. What awaited him was only an unknown number of years in prison. There was nothing left to lose. The moment he opened the page, a few lines of words that were deliberately marked in red caught Huoqihan's eyes. His eyes narrowed slightly and his hands trembled. Chapter 972. How is this possible? This is impossible. Huoqihan's whole body shook, and then he seemed to think of something. He struggled to climb onto the table and shouted against the glass. This is impossible. How could he do this? It's you? You deliberately forged these, didn't you? This is not true. It can't be true. Huoqinhuan looked at Huoqihan's face, which was close to hers, and a trace of pleasure and pity flashed through her eyes. This is a copy of the will after it was revised. All the contents are here in black and white, and only Dad's signature is missing. I asked Lawyer Zhang and he said that it happened to be my birthday. My parents were busy preparing a birthday present for me, so it was delayed. If nothing unexpected happens, Dad will notarize this will after my birthday and seal it as the final draft. Impossible, this can't be true. Huoqihan kept whispering as if he could deny what he saw. He seemed to have aged 10 years all of a sudden. He no longer had the fierce look that he used to have when he accused Huoqinhuan of not being born into this world. Huoqinhuan looked at him through the glass and did not forget to give him a fatal blow. I'm sorry to disappoint you. In the revised will, the whole corporation is still yours. It's just that some of the shares that originally belonged to you are given to Huo Xiaofeng, and a part of the real estate that originally belonged to me is transferred to Hua Xiaofeng's name. When this will was made, Hua Qinhuan was still a minor, let alone Hua Xiaofeng, who was a few years younger than him. Hua Qihan was Hua Xiaofeng's guardian. These things were said to be for Hua Xiaofeng, but in fact they would all fall to Hua Qihan in the end, and he would pass them on to Hua Xiaofeng in the future. From the beginning there was no so-called preference. His parents had always tried to make them feel the same love. They were even worried that Hua Qihan would think too much, so they took his son into consideration. Who would have thought that because he pursued this balance too much, he would attract a fatal disaster for himself? You always compare yourself to me, to those favored juniors of the big families, but you forget that you were originally just an orphan with no one to rely on. It was your parents who took you out of the orphanage, gave you the love of a parent and gave you a home. There are millions of people who have been adopted in this world. I don't dare to say that you have the best life, but at least you won't lose to others. Even the blood relatives of those big families rarely care about their descendants the way your parents care about you. Hua Qinhuan's eyes flashed coldly. It's a pity that you don't deserve this attention. From beginning to end, Hua Qinhuan had never mentioned anything about Hua Qihan cooperating with them to find out the culprits who had killed their parents. After dropping this bombshell that was enough to make Hua Qinhuan regret for the rest of his life, Hua Qinhuan did not have a trace of nostalgia. She turned around and left the small and depressing room. The moment she closed the door, Hua Qinhuan heard Hua Qihan's roar and mournful cries coming from inside. Su Yiyin listened to Hua Qinhuan's story and was speechless for a long time. She did not know how to comfort him. Hua Qinhuan looked at his wife's cautious and hesitant look. Instead he laughed. "What's wrong? Are you scared?" Su Yiyin shook her head and said thoughtfully, "I'm fine. I just think that he might regret it." Hua Qinhuan raised the corners of her mouth slightly, but there was no trace of a smile in her eyes. "Yes, he might regret it. Even if it's not for my parents' unreserved love for him, he should regret it for the huge loss of the inheritance." Chapter 973. Su Yiyin's heart seemed to be pricked by something. It hurt so much that her nose was slightly sour. She plunged into Hua Qinhuan's arms and hugged his waist tightly. Hua Qinhuan was slightly stunned. He was both angry and distressed. "Why are you crying before I've even cried?" Su Yiyin's tears fell down. She sobbed and said, "Because I know you can't cry. If you can't cry, I'll cry for you." Hua Qinhuan reached out and touched Su Yiyin's head, letting her cry until her shirt was wet. "Don't listen to his nonsense. It's not your fault. You can only blame your parents for being too kind. Someone is too greedy and ruined your parents' kindness." After Su Yiyin finished speaking indignantly, she could not help but ask, "You've said so much, but you didn't ask him to help lure those people out. Isn't everything you've done before going to waste?" "No, Uncle is there. My task has been completed. Uncle will take over the rest." "Oh." Su Yiyin nodded. "Will he agree to help?" "He will." "Are you sure?" "If he is not hopelessly stupid, he should understand that this is his only chance to absolve himself of the charges and atone for my parents' sins. With his selfishness, he will not let go of this opportunity." Su Yiyin breathed a sigh of relief, but at the same time she felt a little suffocated. Of course, it would be great if Hua Qihan was willing to cooperate, but to atone for his crimes? Why did these words sound so uncomfortable? Were his crimes something that could be easily dismissed? As if seeing Su Yiyin's thoughts, Hua Qinhuan comforted her in a low voice, "Don't worry, he has a lot of crimes. Not to mention that he colluded with several senior executives in the company to evade taxes and used unfair competition to disregard human life. Just the crimes of him bribing his family to steal his child and colluding with those people to murder my parents and me are enough for him to die. Just helping Uncle and the others catch people will only allow him to live for 2 or 3 more years at most." Only then did Su Yiyin's expression improve. He snorted coldly and said, "This kind of ungrateful dog, even if it's only for 2 or 3 years, it's still too cheap for him." Hua Qinhuan's parents had died when he was young, and his legs had been like that for more than 10 years. From a kind-hearted and sunny young man, he was forced to grow into a cripple that everyone was afraid of and hated. Wherever he went, he had to endure people's pointing and whispering behind his back for more than 10 years. And all of this had something to do with Hua Qihan. Su Yiyin's heart was burning with anger. She wished she could run to Hua Qihan right now and poke 1,000 holes in his body with a needle. She wanted him to be paralyzed for the rest of his life and lie in bed with only his eyes that could move. After she calmed down, Su Yiyin's gaze fell on the black rose specimen on the table. She frowned and said, "This specimen looks a bit unlucky. Why don't you put it away? If you like it, we have ready-made materials in our yard. I'll make another one for you." Although she hadn't touched this thing for a long time, since she could make it when she was a child, there was no reason why she couldn't do it now that she had grown up. Su Yiyin was full of confidence. She planned to call her mother in a while and ask if there were any notes at home that she had made when she was a child. Huo Chenhuan glanced at Su Yiyin and then at the specimen. He smiled slightly and said, "No need. This is the first gift you've given me. In a way, it's also a token of our love." Chapter 974. Token of Love? Su Yiyin was stunned for a moment, then her face turned red. She said angrily, "You said that you didn't have any thoughts about me when I was young. If you didn't have any thoughts about me, why did you treat this as a token of love? I wasn't even 11 years old at that time." Huo Chenhuan only wanted to tease her. He really didn't think about that. He hurriedly explained, Okay, I'll be honest. Actually, it's because this flower saved me once." "Saved you?" Su Yiyin looked up at him in surprise. She didn't expect that to be the reason. "Not long after I sent you back that day, I got into a car accident. My blood spilled on the flowers you gave me. The smell was a little strong. For dried flowers like this, in order to ensure that the color of the flowers would last long, some chemicals were usually added. It was fine when it was dry. The roses had a certain fragrance that would cover the smell of the chemicals, so it didn't have much of an impact. But once it came into contact with water, the pungent smell of the chemicals would spread. Normally this smell would only be disgusting. However, when Huo Chenhuan had lost too much blood and was about to lose consciousness, it unexpectedly had some unexpected effects. Even the doctor who operated on him later sighed. He felt that it was especially incredible that Huo Chenhuan could be sent to the hospital with his consciousness intact when he was so seriously injured. In fact, excessive blood loss could easily lead to a lack of blood supply to the brain and lead to shock. After a long time, it could even lead to brain death. If Huo Chenhuan had been in shock for another minute or two, he might not have just been paralyzed. He would have been in a vegetative state for the rest of his life. After listening to Huo Chenhuan's explanation, Su Yiyin sighed. She didn't expect that the bouquet of flowers she casually gave would have such a big effect. But thinking about it, if Huo Chenhuan hadn't been soft-hearted and helped her when she was being chased, Su Yiyin wouldn't have given the flowers in her hand to him, and the things that happened later wouldn't have happened. "You saved me and I indirectly saved you. This is called good will be rewarded." From this, we can see that doing good deeds is still very useful. Huo Chenhuan's eyes flickered. She suddenly remembered that when she woke up from her coma, she suddenly found out that her legs were crippled. She smashed almost everything around her. Gu Xiaoyang and the others received the news and rushed to the hospital. One team stayed in the hospital to protect him, while the other team followed Zheng Qianyang's men to the scene of the incident to look for clues. At that time, Yu Zian, who had stayed in the hospital at that time, found out that Huo Chenhuan was still holding a bunch of dried flowers that had been dyed red when she was admitted to the hospital, so he asked someone to put the flowers away. Moreover, when Huo Chenhuan was smashing things in anger, she braced herself and handed the flowers over. At that time, almost everyone present thought that he was crazy, but unexpectedly, Huo Chenhuan suddenly calmed down after seeing the bouquet of flowers. No one knew that the moment Huo Chenhuan saw the bouquet of flowers, the scene before Su Yiyin left subconsciously appeared in her mind. At that time, Su Yiyin had already gotten out of the car. After walking for a while, she suddenly remembered something and ran back. She looked up at him and said, "Big brother, my grandfather said that those who are willing to help me are good people. This bouquet of flowers is the finished product of my handicraft class. I made it myself. It's for Big brother. Thank you for helping me just now. I hope Big brother can do a lot of good things like this in the future. I hope Big brother can be safe and everything goes smoothly. Good people will be rewarded." Chapter 975. A child's world was always naive and simple. Just like Su Yiyin at that time, she felt that anyone who helped her was a good person. Because this was a good person, she hoped that this good person would always be good and occasionally help others who needed help like her. The little girl's tender voice kept echoing in Huo Chenhuan's ears, calming him down for a moment. But it was only for a moment. When Yu Zian handed this bouquet of flowers to him, Huo Chenhuan was indeed stunned for a moment, but he quickly came back to his senses. He didn't continue to smash things, but he asked Yu Zian to take the flowers out and throw them away. Yuzian was also very confused at that time. He stood there stupidly, not knowing what to do with the flowers. Fortunately, Zui Yanbai knew the inside story early on, and the driver had woken up before Hua Chenhuan to understand the whole story. He vaguely hinted to Yuzian to take the flowers out, but didn't ask him to really throw them away. Instead, he asked him to temporarily put them away so that Hua Chenhuan wouldn't see them. Sure enough, after Hua Chenhuan's legs were broken, his parents were dead, and most of the family's assets went to his eldest brother. He went from being favored by the heavens to being a cripple that no one cared about. Suddenly, one day he took the initiative to ask about this bouquet of flowers. Yuzian was completely dumbfounded at that time. He subconsciously glanced at Zui Yanbai as if to say, "How did you predict the future? That's amazing." Hua Chenhuan recalled the scene at that time, and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. He would never have thought that he would fall in love with the owner of this bouquet of flowers so many years later. He would even marry her and have a child with her. He also used another method to preserve this bouquet of flowers, and it became a witness to their first meeting. "Are you curious when I fell in love with you?" Su Yiyan's eyes lit up slightly and she hurriedly nodded. "Yes. Actually, I don't know. At that time, I only felt that everything was suddenly gone. My parents were gone, my uncle was also scolded away by me, and my elder brother's family was even more disgusting. Those people who used to flatter and fawn on me all changed their faces and became disgusting. I felt cold and empty. I couldn't find anything that made me feel warm and wanted to live. Then I thought of the bouquet of flowers you gave me. I thought of you." Hua Chenhuan also felt that it was inconceivable now that she thought about it. Logically speaking, the people closest to him would either turn against him or be excluded by him. It should be even more impossible for him to trust others and let a person he had only met once enter his heart. But sometimes, fate was such a wonderful thing. When I asked them to investigate you, 2 or 3 years had already passed. At that time, you were already in junior high school. As Hua Chenhuan spoke, he glanced at the photo that Su Yiyan had taken out earlier and commented seriously, "You don't look as cute as before, but you've become prettier." Su Yiyan's little face blushed slightly, and she looked up to glare at him angrily. "At first, I asked them to investigate you because I wanted to know how you were doing, whether you were safe and whether you had grown up. But after looking at the photos they brought back, I don't know what happened, but I asked them to find a group of people to follow you. At first, they only took photos of you in school or when you went out to play with your friends and classmates. Once every 2 or 3 months, or once every 1 or 2 months. Later on it became half a month, a week, 3 days. After that, other than taking photos, they would occasionally take videos of you fooling around with your friends and family." Chapter 976. When Hua Chenhuan talked about this, his eyes lit up. Obviously, he liked the experience of secretly watching and guarding the treasure. Perhaps it was just like the saying that people were always greedy. When something was missing in their lives, they would uncontrollably be attracted by the thing that was missing. That period of time was the darkest period of Hua Chenhuan's life. He who was addicted to hell naturally yearned for light the most. And Su Yiyan happened to be the light that suddenly shone into his heart. Of course, other than taking pictures and videos, I also sent people to protect you in disguise. I don't want something like that to happen to you again." "Really?" Su Yiyan was skeptical. Why did these words sound so guilty? Hua Chenhuan nodded seriously, but then he seemed to have thought of something and his face darkened. "Although I'm not sure when I fell in love with you, I was really sure of my feelings for you when you just started your first year of university." Su Yiyan blinked and was a little confused. First year of university? Did something special happen in her first year of university? When you just started your first year of university, a boy confessed to you. Su Yiyan was stunned. It seemed that there was such a thing. The Su family had a strict upbringing. They supported free love but did not support puppy love. Su Yiyan was beautiful, had a good family background and had a good personality. Naturally, there were many people who wanted to pursue her. But before she became an adult, her sister-obsessed older brother guarded her strictly. Even if these people had bad intentions, they were already rejected. When Su Yiyan went to university and became an adult, although Su Yuxuan was reluctant to let his baby sister be taken away by a big bad wolf, he also knew that he could stop her from finding a partner for the rest of her life. In the end, he did not obstruct her and let this fish escape the net. Su Yiyan carefully recalled the scene when she was confessed to. She vaguely remembered that it was a tall and strong boy, with lumps of meat all over his body. He was also a little tanned. He was the kind of guy who could give girls a great sense of security. Unfortunately, he was not her cup of tea. Ahem, now that you mention it, it does seem to be the case. So, you're jealous because someone confessed to me? Hua Qinhuan's face darkened. She snorted coldly and looked as if she was about to die from jealousy. Su Yiyan was a little overwhelmed by the delayed vinegar. He chuckled and said, "Then should I thank that big brother for letting you see your heart clearly so early? You still want to thank him?" Hua Qinhuan's face suddenly darkened. The overflowing sour gas was like a flood that could not be stopped. Su Yiyan was amused by him. She hurriedly hugged his arm and coaxed, "No need to thank me. All right, don't be angry. Actually, if you hadn't suddenly brought it up, I wouldn't have even remembered it, let alone remember this person. Now, I don't even remember what he looks like. I only vaguely remember that he's not my type. I rejected him at that time, a very, very thorough rejection." Hua Qinhuan's expression became a little better because of Su Yiyan's words, but he was quickly driven away by her next two sentences. He asked seriously, "He's not your type? Then what kind of type do you like?" "Su Yiyan? Why is this guy's focus always so unexpected? This is actually a question of death." Chapter 977. Well? Su Yiyan rubbed her chin and pretended to be deep in thought. Under Hua Qinhuan's intense gaze, she said quietly, "I like handsome and rich men who love me more than anything else. They put me first in everything. They will give me a small garden, an island, and a villa. When I am tired from walking, they will carry me on their back. When I am sad, they will try their best to make me happy. When I am scared, they will hug and comfort me. As long as it is related to me, it is no small matter in his eyes. Oh, by the way." Su Yiyan looked up with a smile when she said this. "This person must have the surname Hua and be the father of my child." The more Hua Qinhuan listened, the more he felt that something was wrong. By the end, the tips of his ears had uncontrollably turned red. How could he not tell that Su Yiyan was coaxing him? Su Yiyan saw the change in his expression. She rolled her eyes and asked knowingly, "Are you not angry anymore?" Hua Qinhuan glanced at her meaningfully but did not say anything. Su Yiyan stood on her tiptoes and kissed him on the cheek. "How about this?" Only then did Hua Qinhuan reluctantly reply, "Yes." Su Yiyan was angry and amused at the same time. She did not expose Hua Xiaoheng's secret happiness. She also did not ask Hua Qinhuan why he did not take the initiative to chase all the men who wanted to get close to her, including Hua Xiaofeng, out of her safe zone, since he had already seen through Hua Xiaofeng's feelings for her so long ago and was even jealous. She could not ask. The only thing she could ask was that at that time, his leg did not allow him to bravely pursue her like all the other healthy men. He could only secretly suppress his jealousy and suffer internal injuries. Su Yiyan's heart ached for Hua Qinhuan, but she was still very angry. She was not angry at Hua Qinhuan, but at the people who had caused Hua Qinhuan's tragedy. Hua Qinhuan seemed to sense Su Yiyan's emotions. He hugged her and whispered, "I'm sorry." Su Yiyan sniffled and said gloomily, "Why are you apologizing? I should have been more courageous when it came to you. I should have found a way to meet you after you rejected that man and confirmed my feelings for you. I should have told you how I felt about you. Even if you reject me, it doesn't matter. I will try my best to treat you well and let you know that no man in this world can treat you like I do." The one thing that Hua Qinhuan regretted the most over the years was that she knew what kind of person Hua Xiaofeng was and that he was not good enough for Su Yiyan. However, because of her subtle inferiority complex and shameful thoughts, she did not step in to stop their marriage in time and gave Hua Xiaofeng a chance to hurt Su Yiyan. When Su Yiyan heard what he said, her tears immediately turned into laughter. "What nonsense are you talking about?" It was not that she had never thought that if Hua Qinhuan had expressed his feelings to her earlier and stepped in to stop her marriage with Hua Xiaofeng, everything would have been different. However, after thinking about it, she realized that if Hua Qinhuan had really done that, perhaps her marriage with Hua Xiaofeng would not have been successful. However, she had not experienced the things of her previous life. She had followed Hua Qinhuan as a ghost and watched him do so many things for her. She had gradually understood this person and fell in love with him. Perhaps she would not have chosen to be with Hua Qinhuan at that time. It could only be said that no one in this world could predict the future. Even if you felt that there were many things that you regretted, you would realize that everything had been arranged when you looked back. Rashly changing things might not really go as you wished and create the good karma you wanted. Chapter 978. Su Yiyin lay in Hua Qinhuan's arms to calm himself down. Then he asked tentatively, "Can I ask you a question?" "What is it?" "You just said that when your father was seriously injured in an accident and hospitalized, you removed his oxygen mask with your own hands. What happened?" Although Su Yiyin had never met Hua Qinhuan's father, he could tell that Hua Qinhuan loved his father very much from the way he talked about his father several times. If that was the case, how could he kill his father with his own hands? There must be some hidden story behind this. After Su Yiyin asked the question, he carefully looked at Hua Qinhuan. He seemed to feel that this topic was a little cruel. He couldn't help but back out. "It's okay if you don't want to talk about it. There's nothing that can't be said." As soon as Su Yiyin finished speaking, Hua Qinhuan said, "Have I ever told you that during that accident, my father tried his best to protect my mother? But sometimes God likes to joke around. My father was seriously injured, but in the end it was my mother who died first. She didn't make it to the hospital. My father was seriously injured at that time. When he woke up, several days had passed. I had just woken up not long ago. When I learned that something had happened to them, I struggled to find them. What I got was the news of my mother's death and the bad news that my father was still in danger." When Hua Qinhuan said this, his hands began to unconsciously clench. Seeing this, Su Yiyin quickly reached out to touch the back of his hand and comforted him in a low voice. It's okay. I'm here. I'll be with you." With Su Yiyin's comfort, Hua Qinhuan's mood improved a little. However, his tightly clenched hands still didn't relax. "I broke down. I ran to find him like crazy, but I never thought that the first thing he did when he saw me was beg me." "Beg you? Beg you for what?" "He begged me to remove his oxygen mask." "Why?" Su Yiyin was stunned. She never thought that a father, and a father who loved his child very much, would make such a request to his own son. "He already knows, or rather, feels that my mother is no longer alive. He loved my mother too much. He couldn't accept not having my mother by his side for the rest of his life. Moreover, he was seriously injured at that time. His internal organs were bleeding, and all his indicators were in the danger zone. He could die at any time. Even if he's lucky enough to be saved, he won't be able to live for more than a few years. Furthermore, he'll be tormented by illness for the last few years. It'll be very painful. So, you agreed to his request and helped him remove the oxygen mask?" "Yeah." Hua Qinhuan responded in a low voice, forcing a smile on her face. "Now you know why Hua Xiaofeng was so afraid of me, right? No matter how many times he called me a cripple behind my back, he didn't dare to refute me in front of me. He was afraid that I would do something to him. They all knew that I killed my father with my own hands. They thought I was crazy, but they couldn't kill me, so they could only stay away from me. They were afraid that I would kill them one day, just like how I killed my father." "Stop it. Stop it." Su Yiyin hugged Hua Qinhuan tightly and cried even harder than before. Although she could understand her father's decision and could imagine how much he loved his wife back then, she could not help feeling angry and resentful towards him. Why should Hua Qinhuan be the one to fulfill your beautiful and heartbreaking love for the both of you? He was only a child back then. Why did he have to bear such a burden? Why was she so cruel to him? Chapter 979. Hua Qinhuan was a little overwhelmed by his wife's sudden outburst of emotions. He patted Su Yiyin's shoulder with heartache and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, "You were the one who asked first. Why did you cry even harder than me after hearing it? If someone saw this, they would definitely think that I bullied you." "Yes, you bullied me." Su Yiyin wiped her tears on Hua Qinhuan's shirt and said miserably, "Why are you so stupid? He asked you to do this and you did it? What will others think of you if this gets out?" It could be seen from the strange reaction of Hua Qihan's family that those who knew the inside story might not necessarily understand Hua Qinhuan's actions, let alone those outsiders who only cared about the results and never cared about the inside story. They were good at using their own ideas out of context. At that time, perhaps Jing Qianyang was suppressing him, or perhaps Hua Qihan was worried that this matter would get out and the stock price of the Hua Group would plummet, which would hurt his interests. If this matter got out, it was very likely that it would become a sharp weapon for Hua Qihan to bring down Hua Qinhuan and make him unable to make a comeback. However, Jing Qianyang's power at that time was really not something that Hua Qihan could compete with. If Hua Qihan dared to expose this matter and make Hua Qinhuan lose everything, Jing Qianyang could turn around and make him spit out as much as he had eaten, leaving him with nothing. At the thought of this, Su Yiyin felt lucky and distressed. Although the rumors outside were hurtful, no matter how hurtful it was, it was not as painful as when Hua Qinhuan made up his mind to help his father. That was his most beloved father, who was once regarded as a towering mountain and omnipotent. In the end, he died in his hands and watched him slowly die. If it were her, she was afraid that she would be traumatized. It's all in the past. He was obviously the one who was hurt the most in this matter, but now he had to turn around and comfort the person who was sad for him. Su Yiyan's tears were about to stop, but after hearing what he said, they started flowing again. Seeing this, Hua Qinhuan felt both heartache and helplessness. She said hoarsely, "Yanyan, actually, I used to be jealous of you." "Jealous of me?" Hua Qinhuan did not say anything. She lowered her head and stared at Su Yiyan for a long time. Hua Qinhuan was not lying. He was indeed jealous of Su Yiyan. They were both a family of 4, but the Su family situation was indeed many times better than the family Hua's. Su Yiyan was the darling of everyone in the family. Her parents loved her dearly, and her brother doted on her very much. There had never been a situation where they hurt each other because of competing for attention. During the most bitter period, Hua Qinhuan's heart was filled with ruthlessness. Because of this jealousy, she even thought of destroying her. Why was he in so much pain, living in a dark hell every day, suffering both physical and mental torture? No matter how hard he struggled, he could not be saved, but she could be so happy? He wanted to pull her down to be with him, but the last trace of rationality in him told him that if he really did that, his world would really fall into darkness and be bleak for the rest of his life. Therefore, the reason why he did not dare to get close to Su Yiyan was partly because he felt inferior, and partly because he was worried that he would lose control and unconsciously hurt her. Su Yiyan did not wait for Hua Qinhuan's reply, but she could roughly guess what he was thinking. She sniffed and said, "It's okay. You don't have to be jealous now. I'm yours and everything I have is also yours. My family is your family and my family is also your family." Chapter 980. Hua Qinhuan looked straight into Su Yiyan's big eyes, which were full of seriousness and affection. He smiled slightly and said solemnly, "Thank you." Su Yiyan was a little confused. "Thank me for what?" "Thank you for being willing to marry me. Thank you for being willing to share your family with me. Thank you for being willing to work so hard to give birth to a baby for me." Su Yiyan blushed when she heard what he said, but then she seemed to think of something. She reached out and hugged Hua Qinhuan's neck. She smiled and said, "I think it's too lonely to have only one baby, Zai Zai. Why don't we work harder and give him a younger brother or sister?" Su Yiyan liked children and she was the youngest in the family. Although the elders liked her, there were not many people of the same age around her. The children of the collateral branch were only 2 or 3 years younger than her, but most of them were very strange. Su Yiyan didn't like to play with them. She had hoped to have a younger brother or sister of the same age to play with her since she was a child. She didn't realize this wish, so she put her hope on her baby. She wanted to have another child, whether it was a boy or a girl. She wanted them to accompany each other and have a warm, happy and worry-free childhood. Hua Qinhuan didn't agree with Su Yiyan's proposal. Thinking of Su Yiyan's various discomforts during her pregnancy and the helpless situation outside the delivery room when she gave birth, Hua Qinhuan didn't want Su Yiyan to suffer again. One is enough. Now many families don't have one. It's troublesome to have too many children. Su Yiyan looked up at him pitifully. "Don't you like the baby?" "Hua Qinhuan, it's not that I don't like it. I just don't want you to suffer again. But I don't think it's so hard to have a baby. On the contrary, I enjoy it. When I'm pregnant, I can stay at home and do nothing. You would accompany me and take me out for a walk every day. When I was tired, you would massage me. When I felt uncomfortable, you would hug me and comfort me. When my feet were swollen, you would soak my feet every day and coax me to sleep. You would spoil me like a little princess." Hua Qinhuan couldn't help laughing. "What you said, even if you weren't pregnant, I could still do it for you. But that's different. What I mean is that it's more satisfying to enjoy these things while pregnant. It feels like our family is firmly leaning against each other and will never be separated." Hua Qinhuan lowered her head and touched Su Yiyan's forehead. She did not object to Su Yiyan's suggestion, but she did not agree to it directly either. "Xingxing is still young. If we ask for another one now, we might neglect him." Su Yiyan was slightly startled, and his gaze wavered. "Besides, you just gave birth not long ago. It's not good for your health to continue giving birth. I'm not against having another child, but now is not a good time." Su Yiyan pondered for a moment. She had to admit that Hua Qinhuan's words made some sense. She pursed her lips and said disappointedly, Okay. Hua Chenhuan couldn't help laughing when he saw her like this. He said in a hoarse voice, "We can have another child in the future, but there's something we can do now." W. Before Su Yiyan could finish her words, she was kissed by someone who lowered his head. The rest of the words were swallowed into the stomach by someone, and he didn't have a chance to speak again for the rest of the night. People say that what you think about during the day you dream about it at night. Hua Chenhuan hadn't had this dream for a long time. After experiencing a series of shocks such as paralysis of the lower body, the death of her mother and personally pulling off her father's oxygen mask, Hua Chenhuan had seen a psychologist for a long time. Chapter 981. During this period of time he basically had the same nightmare every night. In his dream he was back in the cramped intensive care unit. He was in a wheelchair as he looked at his father, who was wrapped up like a mummy. He wore an oxygen mask and had all sorts of machines attached to his body. Hua Chenhuan was a stranger to her father, especially when she was in her teens. Hua Chenhuan was no different. Back then, he still had the naivety of a young man and regarded his father as a hero who could hold up the sky for him. Now that he had fallen, Hua Chenhuan's world had collapsed as well. Hua Jinyan noticed Hua Chenhuan's arrival and moved his lips under the oxygen mask. Hua Chenhuan leaned closer and heard him asking about his wife's whereabouts. "Your mom? Your mom?" Hua Chenhuan's heart wrenched. However, she tried her best to remain calm and forced a smile. "It's fine. Mom is fine. Dad, take care of yourself. Mom is waiting for you. She is waiting for you to get better." Hua Jinyan did not say anything. He looked at Hua Chenhuan deeply for a long time before he said, "Don't lie to me. I know, your mom is gone." Hua Chenhuan's heart skipped a beat. She was dumbfounded. After some time she composed herself and hurriedly said, No. Dad, who told you that? Mom is fine. She is fine. No one told me." Hua Jinyan struggled to speak. His face was ashen, and he looked like a withered tree that had lost all signs of life. He looked old and frail. "I could feel it. Back then. I was holding your mom. She was bleeding non-stop and we were stuck in the car. We kept waiting for someone to save us but no one came. Later your mom fell asleep. I kept calling her but she didn't respond. I could feel people coming and going. They separated us. I wanted to hold on to her but I couldn't. I knew she was leaving. I couldn't stop her. I couldn't stop her." Hua Jinyan's speech was intermittent and was not as coherent as he usually was. When Hua Chenhuan heard the gist of it, her nose started to sting. Zheng Qianyang still didn't allow him to see his mother for the last time. When he returned with Zui Yanbai and the others, he knew that his mother's death wasn't any better than Zui Yanbai's. Hua Chenhuan wanted to go and take a look, but he was also afraid to. This was his subconscious avoidance. It seemed that as long as he did not go, he could deceive himself that his mother was still alive. The woman who loved him the most, who doted on him the most, who always looked at him with a gentle smile, was still there. I couldn't make her stay so I could only go with her. Hua Jinyan turned to look at Hua Chenhuan with a strange eagerness in his eyes. Chenhuan, do you understand me? It's too lonely for your mother to walk alone. Daddy wants to accompany her. I can't let her walk alone." Hua Chenhuan did not understand what her father meant, but she was still shocked. "Dad, what did you say? Mom is already. How can you accompany her?" Hua Jinyan did not say a word. Instead, he looked at his youngest son, who was also his only son, with a conflicted expression. Perhaps he knew that this was too cruel for a teenager, but he had no other choice. Only Hua Chenhuan could help him at a time like this. Hua Chenhuan was also the only person he could trust. Instead of living in such a painful half-dead state, it would be better to end all troubles and leave with his wife. Chapter 982. Chenhuan, are your legs in pain? Hua Chenhuan was stunned. His eyes turned red instantly. He looked like a child who had finally found a safe haven after being bullied. He showed all his vulnerability and sadness to his closest family. "Yes, it hurts a lot. Daddy is in pain too. His hands and feet hurt. His whole body hurts but his heart hurts the most. Daddy and Mommy love you the most. You can't bear to see me suffer like this forever, right?" Hua Chenhuan's face was as white as a sheet. Tears rolled down his cheeks uncontrollably. He instinctively wanted to retreat. He wanted to escape from the room and the man on the hospital bed who looked like a complete stranger to him. However, he could not control his hands. It was as though he had been bewitched. He touched the transparent oxygen mask with trembling hands and moved it away from his father's face under his father's encouraging gaze. Huo Jinyan's life was still in danger due to the bleeding in his organs. Now that he had lost the oxygen mask, his breathing gradually quickened and became weaker. Less than a minute had passed, but Huo Qinhuan felt as though a lifetime had passed. Clang. Huo Qihan and Huo Jinyan stared at Huo Jinyan in horror. They had brought a bunch of things over to visit Huo Jinyan. Huo Qinhuan turned his head and met their shocked and terrified gazes. It was as though they had seen a terrifying monster. After the things fell to the ground with a loud thud, everything seemed to come to an end. Boundless darkness instantly engulfed Huo Qinhuan's vision. Huo Qinhuan, who had regained some of his consciousness, instinctively clenched his fists when he saw the familiar darkness. He knew very well what would happen after this. Even the psychiatrist had no idea what would happen after this. Everything would come to an abrupt end. That was because the nightmares that he had repeated countless times would end with his father's ashen face after the oxygen mask was removed and his mother's bloody body after the car accident. What was even more frightening was that his mother, who he used to love the most, would turn around and question him with a ferocious look on her face after discovering his existence. Why did he kill his father with his own hands? As the main culprit, his father, who had instigated him to make a move, was only silently guarding behind his mother, giving him a sinister and twisted smile. Every time this happened, Huo Qinhuan would wake up from her sleep and sit with her eyes wide open for the whole night, unable to fall asleep again. This time, he learned his lesson and closed his eyes before the two of them appeared. However, the expected questioning and cursing did not appear. Instead, a hand appeared, a warm hand that Huo Qinhuan was incomparably familiar with. That hand fell on his head and gently stroked his hair. In an instant, Huo Qinhuan was pulled back to his childhood, when the three of them went up to the mountain villa for a vacation. In the garden that his father had painstakingly built, his mother would always let him lie down and rest his head on her lap. She would caress his head from time to time and sing a melodious lullaby. "Mom?" Huo Qinhuan couldn't resist the temptation and opened her eyes. What entered her eyes was the familiar gentle smile of the woman. "Child, you've worked hard." Behind the woman was the bright and dazzling sun. It shone on her body as if she was plated with a gentle halo. She was beautiful and elegant, intoxicating. "Don't blame your father. I've already helped you teach him a lesson." After saying that, the woman turned her head and looked behind her. Huo Qinhuan followed her gaze and saw his father, who was silently watching them not far away. Chapter 983. Huo Qinhuan was familiar with the gentle smile on his face. His hair had turned slightly white, but he was still as tall as a pine tree. It was not the pale and weak man who was lying on the hospital bed on his deathbed. Instead, it was the man whom Huo Qinhuan looked up to in the deepest recesses of her memory. She even saw him as a role model. He was her father. Their appearance was too sudden and unexpected. Huo Qinhuan was in a daze for a long time until his mother's voice rang out again, snapping him out of his daze. "It's about time. We should go." "Go? Where to?" Huo Qinhuan's lips moved slightly. She wanted to say something, but she realized she could not make a sound. She could not even move. "It's time for you to go back." Her mother patted Huo Qinhuan's head again. Her gentle voice carried a hint of an elder's love for her child. Huo Qinhuan could vaguely detect a hint of reluctance in her voice. "Live well and treat the people who love you well. Daddy and Mommy will love you forever." Teenagers who were 15 or 16 years old were already taller than their mothers. However, they instinctively crouched down in front of their parents. When they were young, their parents would squat down to look them in the eye and talk to them. His soft lips landed on Huo Qinhuan's forehead. His voice was filled with the blessings and expectations of his parents, as well as their reluctance and worry for him. When he raised his head again, he realized that the person who had been standing in front of him a while ago had already walked away. Huo Jinyan smiled gently and extended his hand to his wife, who was walking over slowly from about 10 meters away. Huo Jinyan interlocked his fingers with hers as well. The sunlight shone on the two of them, illuminating their smiling faces. It was heartwarming and beautiful. They reminded Huo Qinhuan of the warm memories from her childhood. However, back then, Huo Jinyan was an accident to this pair of true love. Even if he was occasionally forgotten, he would quietly watch them display their affection for each other. Now, he could only watch as the two of them walked further and further away, disappearing from his sight bit by bit. Chenhuan? Chenhuan? Hua Chenhuan blinked uncomfortably. He looked blankly at Su Yiyan who was squatting beside him. She looked anxious and helpless. Su Yiyan heaved a sigh of relief when she saw Hua Jinyan waking up. She probed. Did you have a nightmare? Nightmare? Hua Chenhuan wiped his face and sat up. He recalled what he had seen in his dream and smiled gently. No, it was a sweet dream. Sweet dream? Su Yiyan. Who would cry when they had a sweet dream? She had been by Hua Chenhuan's side for a long time, but this was the first time she had seen him cry so hard. Hua Chenhuan had not been so sad even when she had died in a car accident in her previous life. However, at that time Hua Chenhuan's heart was like dead ashes. He didn't care about anything. Naturally he couldn't cry. It couldn't be compared to this. Hua Chenhuan responded in a low voice. He leaned over and kissed Su Yiyan. This successfully frightened Su Yiyan who was still thinking. What are you doing? Nothing. I just suddenly wanted to kiss you. Su Yiyan glanced at him suspiciously. Are you really okay? Yes. Hua Chenhuan didn't know why he suddenly had this dream. But he had a premonition that this time, they were really far away from each other forever. Recalling what his mother had said in the dream, Hua Chenhuan felt that she must be referring to the people guarding him at this moment. Thinking of this, Hua Chenhuan only felt his heart boiling. He wanted to hug Su Yiyan and kiss her a few more times. Chapter 984. Su Yiyan was creeped out by his stare. Just as she was about to speak, there was a knock on the door, and she could faintly hear her precious son's cries. Su Yiyan's attention was instantly attracted. She left Hua Chenhuan and quickly ran out. The moment the door opened, the little boy who had already cried with snot bubbles, burped at the right time. He looked miserably at his mother with tears in his big eyes. His pitiful little eyes directly hit Su Yiyan's heart, making her surrender on the spot. She reached out and hugged him into her arms. You go first. I'll coax him. The nanny was relieved. She nodded and left. Su Yiyan took the child into the room. The little guy was really picky. Previously, when the nanny carried him, he was crying with snot and tears. As soon as he entered Su Yiyan's arms, although he still sniffled and trembled, at least he did not cry anymore. Su Yiyan put the child on the bed, face up. She reached out and touched his little belly to make sure that he was not crying because of hunger. She lifted the diaper to take a look. It was dry and clean without any trace of wetting. You only know how to torment your father and me. After Su Yiyan finished speaking, she still did not vent her anger and patted her son's chubby little butt. The little boy seemed to understand his mother's words. He cried out, showing his tender teeth. He also tried to reach out his little short hands to hug Su Yiyan's fingers and acted like a spoiled child. Su Yiyan's heart melted after his teasing. How could she still be angry? Hua Chenhuan saw that his wife's attention was all attracted by the little boy. He said sourly, "You spoil him too much." The nature of mother and son was a very strange thing. Su Yiyan did not spend much time at home. The child spent most of his time with Uncle Zhang and the nanny, but the child was especially clingy to Su Yiyan. As long as she was at home, she had to feed him in the morning and at night. Otherwise he would throw a little tantrum and cry. Hua Chenhuan had long been displeased with this little guy who occupied his wife's free time. His wife had suffered so much when she was pregnant with him. When she finally gave birth to him, she still had to take care of him every day. She didn't even have time to be alone with him. Occasionally, when the two of them shared a bed and wanted to hug each other, the little guy would howl so loudly that the nanny had no choice but to carry him to Su Yiyan for help. It was more accurate than a radar. The result of his disturbance was that the original two-person world would be forced to become a harmonious daily life of a family of three. Hua Chenhuan's initial expectations and soft-heartedness towards the little fellow had completely turned into disgust and vigilance after he had stolen Su Yiyan's attention time and time again. If she had known earlier, she wouldn't have wanted a child so early. How was he here to be their son? He was clearly here to collect debts. At this moment, Hua Chenhuan suddenly understood his father's mistake of leaving him outside and forgetting to pick him up. Now, he also really wanted to pack this little bastard up and throw him out. He would pick him up after a year and a half. That was why it was said that parents were true love, but children were all accidents. Little Xingxing seemed to have heard his old father bad-mouthing him. He glanced at him with his big eyes and suddenly snorted. He turned his back, not wanting to see this bad father who was bad-mouthing him. In the end, because he was too small, he could not turn over completely even after a long time. Finally, when he was about to turn over, Hua Chenhuan stuck out a finger and poked him back to his original position in a particularly annoying manner. Chapter 985. Victory was right in front of his eyes, but he was beaten back to square one. Moreover, this person was the culprit of his quarrel. The little guy was full of grievances. Finally, he could not help but pout and burst into tears. Seeing this, Su Yiyan slapped away Hua Chenhuan's hand and picked up the child. At the same time, she rolled her eyes at a certain someone as if to say, "Childish." Hua Chenhuan. He really could not control his hand that wanted to hit and bully the child. What should he do? Because of this little episode in the morning, little Xingxing did not forgive his father who liked to bully him even after Su Yiyan and Su Yiyan finished their breakfast. He refused to be carried by him and was taken away by the nanny and Yuan Yuan. When Su Yiyan saw this scene, she felt sympathetic and amused. She gloated and said, "You deserve it. Did you really think that you could bully a child who did not know anything?" Although their baby was young, he was very vengeful. Hua Chenhuan. It was bad enough that he was despised by the little guy, but he was also ridiculed by his wife. It was really too difficult for him to be at the bottom of the family food chain. Big Boss Hua, who had lost in his first battle for Hua Jinyao's favor, was feeling extremely depressed. As for Su Yiyan, who was the target of the fight between the father and son, she was in a good mood after watching the drama between the father and son. She had forgotten all the bad things that happened 2 days ago. And this good mood continued until the stores and companies under her name started to send in good news one after another. Su Yiyan took the opportunity to invite people to her house for a barbecue to broadcast a few practical small medicine packs. Not long after the broadcast ended, the small medicine packs went online on time in the physical store. Except for some people who lived close to the store and did not have much free time to eat the ready-made medicine packs in the store, most people chose to buy the medicine packs and make them at home. Some people who lived far away and could not eat or buy the medicine packs in the store personally had relatives and friends in the local area. They could ask them to buy the medicine packs and send them over. Their relatives and friends, as well as themselves who were not in the area, could only watch as buyers flooded the social circles one by one, while they could only drool through the screen. These people quickly joined forces and swarmed over to Su Yiyan's live streaming account and the store's public account to leave messages asking to open an online store. The people in the shop couldn't make the decision, so they simply reported it to Su Yiyan. It just so happened that Yi Qiliang and other researchers saw that her medicine packs were selling well and had good reviews, so they wanted to take this opportunity to work with her and promote some simple and practical Chinese medicine prescriptions and medicine packs. Su Yiyan did not have any objections to this. She was willing to cooperate if she could benefit the public without harming her own interests. Su Yiyan would be considered a shareholder of the technology. After he gave them the recipe, he would leave the rest of the work to others. He would just be a shopkeeper who didn't have to do anything and collected the money leisurely. In addition to this matter, there was finally a new development in Ding Juxi's marital-extramarital affair. Did Ding Juixi and Hai Yi issue an announcement to clarify things? Yes. How did they clarify things? How else can they clarify things? Xia Junxing recalled Hai Yi's extremely perfunctory clarification and really felt that it would be difficult for Ding Juixi to survive this time. Just say that they are just colleagues working in the same production team. The intimate actions that were filmed were just part of the script and they were just rehearsing. Chapter 986. Audition? Su Yiyan's eyes were full of mockery. They have an emotional scene in that drama? Xia Junxing also laughed. Isn't it up to them whether there is or not? Can the crew jump out to refute them at this time? After all, they were the same crew. They were bound together for good or ill. Wen Jingping was fine, but Ding Juixi was acting as the second male lead in that drama. He was already halfway through filming and couldn't be replaced. Otherwise, the loss of the crew was no joke. In order to recover this loss, the crew was bound to be dragged down. Even if there were no emotional scenes, they could still make some emotional scenes for him. If it really didn't work, they could say that the original scenes were deleted because of the negative impact of this incident. Anyway, words were dead, but the people who spoke were alive, so they could say whatever they wanted. As for going to their respective rooms in the middle of the night, it was also to check the script. At that time, there were other people in the room, not just the two of them. Xia Junxing summarized Hai Yi's clarification statement and added, "Anyway, the reporters who broke the news couldn't have really filmed what they did in the room. Even if they did, in a harmonious society, they couldn't publish it even if they wanted to. If they weren't careful, they could easily get themselves implicated. Naturally, they can say whatever they want." Su Yiyan looked up at Xia Junxing and chuckled. "The key to this matter is not what they say, but whether other people, especially their fans and investors who are willing to support them, are willing to believe it." After Hai Yi's statement was released, how did the media and Ding Juexi's fans react? What other reaction can there be? After so long, those who wanted to stop being fans have already done so. The rest are mostly die-hard fans who won't shed tears until they see the coffin. Not to mention that Hai Yi Art gave them a perfunctory explanation. Even if they didn't give them an explanation, they would find another way to whitewash their idol's reputation from all sides. These people are persistent, but unfortunately, their persistence is in the wrong place and they are fans of the wrong person. Isn't that right? Who hasn't met a few scumbags when they were young? Even I feel a little sorry for them. However, it was only a little. She thought about how these people had insulted and even cursed other artists, reporters, and even rival artists who were in the same period as Ding Juexi but had developed better than him in order to defend Ding Juexi. Xia Junxing felt that the saying like idol like fan made sense. One was willing to hit while the other was willing to be hit. If you felt sorry for them, they might even laugh at you for being silly. Unfortunately, no matter how persistent these people are, they can't compare to a single word from an investor. Ever since Ding Juexi became popular, he had been selling his image as a good husband and man. Many business partners wanted to work with him because of his image. Now that he's done something like this, there are a lot of partners who want to hold him accountable for breaking the contract. Those who originally thought highly of him and wanted to work with him definitely won't continue to do so. It doesn't matter whether it's now or in the future. His character has collapsed. His future days won't be easy. Su Yiyan sneered. His life couldn't have been any better. Have you forgotten that he has a powerful father-in-law and brother-in-law? He relied on his wife to start his business, but in the end he abandoned his wife and children. How ungrateful. Don't people in the entertainment industry believe in luck? If he took the initiative to push out a wife who brings good luck to him, not only will his luck be gone, but the benefits he obtained from her will also be taken back double. This is called backlash. Chapter 987. Su Yiyan seemed to have thought of something when she said this. She frowned and asked in a low voice, "Speaking of which, have they divorced?" "It's already going through the procedures, but the specific division of property and custody of the two children are a little troublesome. Madame Wang insists on letting Ding Juexi leave the marriage with nothing, and she wants the custody of the two children." Ding Juexi's wife's surname was Wang. Ever since she moved out of the Ding family's small apartment, she insisted that people call her by her original name instead of Madame Ding. It was obvious that she had made up her mind to cut off all ties with Ding Juexi and not have any relationship with him in name anymore. Su Yiyan could understand Madame Wang's thoughts. They were both mothers. When she suddenly found out that the man who had been by her side for more than 10 years was a beast in human skin, she would never let the children she had painstakingly given birth to be by such a person's side. People said that parents were the first teachers of children. With such a teacher, it would be a miracle if the children could learn well. Is Madame Wang's request difficult? There is a certain level of difficulty, but with the Wang family's connections and financial resources, it's only a matter of time before they win the lawsuit. Su Yiyan nodded in satisfaction. When they sign the divorce agreement, we'll expose this matter. Didn't nothing happen? They've already divorced, so how can this be considered nothing? He really treats everyone like fools. His brainless fans like to be fools, but others don't like it. Su Yiyan didn't have much of a grudge against Ding Juexi. She just hated this person. When she saw him, she couldn't help but think of Hua Xiaofeng back then, and it was a low-end version of Hua Xiaofeng. Wasn't it disgusting? By the way, where's Wen Jingping? Has she been in contact with Ding Juexi recently? This time the matter was not small. Ding Juexi was relatively famous, and he was a married man who had an affair. His image had collapsed, so there were more people following him. Naturally, there were more revelations. On the contrary, Wen Jingping, the third party who destroyed the harmony of other people's families, should have been reviled by everyone, but unexpectedly disappeared without a trace. She didn't come out to cry and cut ties with Ding Juexi. She also didn't jump out rashly like before and try to use her innocent and harmless face to distort the truth and put a dignified name on her actions. Su Yiyan was not used to this. Could it be that because of the male lead's neglect, this female lead, whose protagonist aura had been constantly dropping, finally had some self-awareness and knew how to know her place? It didn't make sense. If she knew her place, she wouldn't have been so impatient to hook up with Ding Juesi, the spare tire, after being ignored by Do Qianni for a few months. At that time, Su Yiyan would never have thought that Wen Jingping would unexpectedly pick up a cheat after losing Do Qianni. If this cheat didn't work hard to give her advice behind the scenes and repeatedly stop her from acting impulsively, Wen Jingping would have run out to dance. With such a troublesome host, Wen Jingping's system was really tired. Wen Jingping has less contact with Ding Juesi recently. It seems that she has a new target. A new target? Su Yiyan was stunned. She was indeed the Mary Sue female lead who had a lot of spare tires in the original work. It had only been a few days, but she actually had a new target. Was she decisively abandoning the Rook to save the king after seeing that the public opinion was in the wrong direction? If it was the situation in the original work, it would be fine. Although Wen Jingping in the original work was also AB*TCH and flirted with people in all kinds of ways, her heart was Hua Xiaofeng. No matter how much she flirted with this group of people, she kept it within a limit and wouldn't easily cross the line. Chapter 988. Most importantly, she flirted with people one by one, capturing an important supporting male lead at a time, making them unswervingly loyal to her without any complaints. Even after discovering each other's existence, they would still silently sigh. She was such a good person, it was natural for so many people to like her. Weren't they also one of the people who silently protected her and liked her? It was a pity that they weren't the lucky ones to be chosen. When Su Yiyan saw it, she was quite shocked. She felt that these spare tires were really poisoned by the female lead's halo, each one more insane than the other. The current situation was very different from the original work. She hadn't even captured a supporting male lead, yet she turned around and flirted with another supporting male lead. She played the spare tires to the fullest. Was she really not afraid of screwing up? Su Yiyan rubbed her chin and pondered for a moment. She smiled and asked, "Who is her new target?" "It's the male lead of the drama they're currently filming." "The drama they're currently filming? The one Ding Juesi introduced her to?" Amazing. She entered the cast by relying on her relationship with the second male lead, then turned around and seduced the first male lead. She really has a set of tricks up her sleeves. Xia Junxing couldn't help but laugh when he heard her words. He echoed, "This Miss Wen's vision and speed in finding her next target are indeed incomparable to ordinary people." The phrase, "finding her next target," could be said to be very appropriate. When Xia Junxing first found out about Wen Jingping, he was blinded by the series of love and hate between this woman and his new boss and his boss's ex-fiancée. He originally thought that she was a daughter flower that relied on men. He didn't expect that she was actually a man-eating flower, the kind that ate people without spitting out the bones. Once you were targeted by her, you would first be infatuated with her. Without knowing anything, you would be squeezed dry by her. Then she would abandon you without hesitation and turn to find a new target. Thinking about it carefully, she felt her hair stand on end. The people she targeted were really unlucky for several lifetimes. General Manager Xia sighed in his heart. He didn't know that if his boss hadn't pulled his money trees away in time, they would have become the first batch to be sucked dry. Even you think that she has good taste. Who is her new target this time? The male lead of their drama is Yin Jihong, the second young master of the Yin family. Yin family? Su Yiyan pursed her lips and tried hard to recall the original novel's contents. She was certain that the novel did not mention anything about the Yin family, nor was there any particularly important supporting male character named Yin Jihong. Could it be that this was an undeveloped NPC? Thinking up to this point, Su Yiyan's heart skipped a beat. Anyone who had played games before would know that hidden NPCs could turn into big bosses as they played. Could it be that this young master Yin? Seeing Su Yiyan's bewildered expression, Xia Junxing hurriedly explained, "You might not have heard of it, but the Yin family is a well-known family of actors. Almost every generation has someone who walks the path of acting. Yin Jihong is a direct descendant of the Yin family. His grandfather is a famous senior who is both virtuous and talented. His grandmother was once a famous actress in a play. His parents are singers and musicians respectively. It is said that Yin Jihong's acting skills were passed down to him by his grandfather. He was practically trained in this area since he was young. He could recite lines as soon as he learned how to speak. He could walk as soon as he learned how to walk. Su Yiyan's mouth twitched. He could recite lines as soon as he learned how to speak. He could walk as soon as he learned how to walk. Wasn't this child's childhood too tough? Chapter 989. Imagine eating breakfast and not knowing how to choose from a table of food. The child suddenly said, "I'm picky when it comes to relationships and you're my type. Can you still eat?" Another example, after washing up at night, you're watching the stars with your lover on the balcony. The child comes out of nowhere and says in a sad and serious tone, "You're watching the snow, the stars and the moon with him talking about poetry and life philosophy. Why don't you watch the snow, the stars and the moon with me talking about poetry and life philosophy?" Can this couple's romantic little date continue? Another example, when the stairs are slippery and she accidentally slips and breaks her leg, the child suddenly says, "You've only lost a leg but she's lost her love." Su Yiyan was so scared by her own imagination that she shuddered. She felt that if they were really raised like this, the parents would go crazy before the child went crazy. Xia Junxing looked at Su Yiyan's expression and knew that she must have imagined something. The corners of his lips curled up slightly and he laughed softly. Of course, it's just an exaggeration. Who would really teach acting at such a young age? Teaching singing and musical instruments is more reliable. It's said that when young Master Yin first debuted, he walked the path of a multi-talented and modest gentleman. He's proficient in all kinds of rare musical instruments and has a fancy singing voice. His ability is better than some of the male artists in the same period. Su Yiyan raised her eyebrows. Logically speaking, he should be very famous. Why haven't I heard of him before? His family background and connections are there. He's more low-key and doesn't walk the path of popularity. He only acts in a down-to-earth manner and occasionally goes on official variety shows to help promote ancient culture according to the instructions of the higher-ups. He doesn't even do publicity, not to mention scandals and the usual hype in the industry. Su Yiyan muttered, "According to what you said, this young Master Yin is quite Buddhist? Isn't that so? It's a pity that he's been targeted by this woman. It'll be difficult for him to be Buddhist in the future." Xia Junxing seemed to have thought of something when he said this. He frowned and said, "Speaking of which, there's something I find quite strange." "What is it?" According to the information, Yin Jihong initially ignored Wen Jingping and kept his distance from her. He might have even heard some rumors about her. Every time this woman took the initiative to approach him, he avoided her like the plague. But not long ago, for some reason, Yin Jihong's attitude towards this woman suddenly changed. He started to go in and out with her. He even took over Ding Juexi's role as the director. Originally, many actors and actresses in the crew knew about the recent events and were prepared to laugh at the two involved parties. Now that Wen Jingping suddenly has Yin Jihong's support, even if these people are unhappy, they don't dare to mock Wen Jingping in front of her face. They don't even dare to make trouble for her behind her back. After hearing Xia Junxing's words, Su Yiyan frowned slightly. "You're saying that Yin Jihong's first impression of Wen Jingping isn't good. It could even be said that it's very bad. But after the news of Wen Jingping being a mistress in someone else's family, Yin Jihong's impression of her changed. He became appreciative of her and even supported her? According to the information, that's indeed the case. This time, not only Xia Junxing, but even Su Yiyan realized that something was wrong. Could it be that she was wrong? It wasn't that Wen Jingping didn't pretend to be pitiful like before, but that she didn't pretend to be pitiful to the public, but to her new target. Chapter 990. Or was it because she had already snatched away half of the female lead halo? But was her previous female lead halo so powerful? Su Yiyan's doubts emerged one by one, making her instinctively feel uneasy. This matter is indeed a little strange. Get someone to continue to keep an eye on her first. If she does anything strange, tell me immediately. Su Yiyan was still a little worried as she said, "Don't let your guard down just because she's more well-behaved now. You've also noticed that she's a little strange. People who hate her may suddenly fall in love with her one day. It's impossible to guard against that. Keep an eye on her and you can take precautions." Although Xia Junxing didn't understand why Su Yiyan cared so much about this woman named Wen Jingping, as Su Yiyan said, some people might be born a little strange. They were usually quiet, but they might suddenly jump up and bite you. Although it wasn't fatal, it would definitely hurt. Xia Junxing didn't want to take this risk. Wen Jingping probably didn't expect that the strangeness between her and Yin Jihong would be noticed so quickly. Moreover, the person who noticed it was the person who could control her life and death at any time. The scandal between Ding Juecy and her was so fierce that it caught her off guard. Wen Jingping had been hiding for a few days. It wasn't easy for her to wait for Hai Yi's announcement. She thought that the matter would be over. She didn't expect that not long after this incident, the debut work that she had worked so hard to shoot would be released at this awkward time. Also released at the same time was the blood-sucking Dancing Red. The result was obvious. The early publicity for Empress was still very strong. In addition, when they filmed this drama, they used the banner of restoring history. Except for some onlookers who were at the forefront and resolutely boycotted Wen Jingping because of the recent scandal of the mistress, the audience had never resolutely boycotted this drama. Some of the audience who were curious about this kind of theme or were interested in history were still very willing to take a look at this drama. As a result, the viewership ratings for the premiere of Empress were not low. The viewers were not easily fooled either. They were attracted by the initial announcement, but what really attracted them to continue watching was the quality of the show. After the first day's episode was broadcasted, the audience discovered that this drama was like many previous dramas that pretended to be historical, but acted out a cliché Mary Sue love story. All in all, it was a huge investment. The clothes were complicated and the hairstyle was shocking. It looked gorgeous, but it was actually cumbersome. The money invested was all spent on these dispensable props, and the most important thing was neglected. The plot was too harsh and the acting was too awkward. It was enough to dissuade a group of people from the movie. On the other hand, the advertising investment for the neighboring channel's Red Brave was not even half of that for Empress. Although it was a lot of investment, it was all in place. In addition, there was Luo Baoging, a dedicated director who strived for perfection. There were no awkward scenes at all. There was also Song Linghua, a technical consultant. Whether it was the young girls or the boys in the crew, they all had to learn how to behave as they filmed. When it came to the appearance of a group portrait, the people of Dancing Red walked in swaying and swaying. Their posture was graceful and dignified. Empress was like going to the market in their hometown. It was a mess, and a mess. It was a foul atmosphere. The difference between them was obvious. Chapter 991. Not to mention, in order to support Xia Ningxi's screenwriting debut and to promote opera culture, Song Linghua specially invited an old friend who did clothing and even makeup design. The makeup for the characters in the play was generous and simple, but it was very consistent with the person and even the role positioning. Instead, it sublimated the tone of the whole play and the appearance characteristics of the actors to a certain extent. In the eyes of the outside world, these two dramas had been secretly competing since the beginning of the shooting. They had thought that the two dramas would be evenly matched after the broadcast since they had been fighting so hard before. Unexpectedly, many people could see the advantages and disadvantages of the two dramas on the first day. When Jingping looked at the high ratings of the premiere of Empress, happily and imagined that in the near future, she would become a well-known beauty and big star. Wherever she went, fans would pick her up and give her gifts, and she would be the center of attention. As a result, this fantasy only lasted for a day, and it was completely shattered by the ratings and word of mouth like Waterloo. On the second day of Empress's broadcast, the ratings plummeted, and it was not even half of the premiere. All kinds of bad comments filled the comment section at the bottom of the online page, and the rating of the drama was directly reduced from 8 points given for the premiere to 5 points, and it was still falling. Is this a big production that claims to have invested hundreds of millions? I think this so-called big production is all about these flashy clothes and jewelry, as well as the sky-high salary of the actors. It's this kind of nouveau riche hairstyle that can't wait to pile up into a small hill and pile a box of gold and silver jewelry on the head, and this kind of shadow-style plastic costume that can't be tripped and can't wait to blind your eyes and tell you how rich the crew is. When will these directors and producers understand that whether a drama is good or not depends on the plot and acting skills, and not these messy superficial things? XXX passerby fan, because he also participated in this drama, looked at the makeup photos and clicked on the episode, and was directly blinded by the dazzling. What kind of aesthetic standards do the directors and stylists have now? Do you really think the audience likes your nouveau riche style? Upstairs, I'm also a passerby fan of an actor in this drama. In order to watch him, I endured this strange scene and watched an episode. In the end, I couldn't stand it and was persuaded to quit by the awkward acting skills of a few actors. It hurts my eyes. The director and scriptwriter of this drama are really amazing. Many of the supporting roles are clearly outstanding actors. Even if they aren't considered veteran actors, at least those who have watched their previous dramas know that their acting skills are not bad. At the very least, they won't make the audience fall out of character for no reason. In the end, in this drama, the collective acting skills have gone downhill. Is it the actors who acted half-heartedly or the director who directed half-heartedly? Does no one feel that the lines in this drama are particularly awkward? When I clicked on it, I happened to see the talent show. The lines directly stunned me. She really doubted the scriptwriter's standards. This kind of overbearing CEO line that gave people goosebumps had stopped being popular hundreds of years ago, okay? Does he really think that he's filming a period drama and all the lines have to follow suit? He's really treating the audience like fools. Other than the ordinary audience who were only attracted by the trailer and publicity, but were dissuaded by the plot and acting skills, the viewers of the premiere were more ancient culture enthusiasts who were attracted by the historical drama that Hai had promoted in the early days. These people had a real affection for ancient culture. Seeing the things they liked being ruined with their own eyes, their reaction was much stronger than the ordinary audience. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.